You know what time it is. It's time for Dave's Gone By, which we're going to do in just about 1 minute. Thank you so much, all of you who are joining us on this Saturday. Need time to clear my throat, as always. And, of course...
36 people were sickened. 34 kids.
Oh, boy. We're going to be talking about norovirus. Yay! On the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream. Here we go.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
There goes the Daverhood.
And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Tropical hot dog night. Like two flamingos in a fruit fight.
There goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody. Dave Lefkowitz here with the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream, live with you on this Saturday morning, July 21st, 2018. Thanks, already so many people tuning in. Welcome, oh my God, a friend of the Daverhood, Jill, who wrote Broadway music. No, well, she's another Jill who was on the show. My darling and adorable wife, Joyce, just said Jill Sabule. No, this is another Jill who did a Broadway musical. I'm pretty sure it was based on a Charles Dickens novel, and forgive me, was it Tale of Two Cities? If I'm wrong, Jill, just message me here and we'll tell everybody. But also welcome to Richard and John and Jeffrey, a marvelous playwright who was on one or two of our Tony shows. Tony, of course, welcome Tony every Saturday. Christian and Nate and Michael and so many other folks who already I can't see because they've scrolled up. And Nancy, Nancy, you haven't said hello, Joyce, yet.
No, she
I'm
says
waiting.
Hello, David and Joyce.
Well, we're waiting, Nancy.
Let her
type
wake
that
up
in.
and type. It's morning time.
Yeah, I know. It's early. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, every Saturday when we do this Facebookio program of the stream. This one is called, you're going to like this, hey, funny, you don't look Stewish. Get it? Get it? Because our guest, Nancy writes, good morning, Dave and Joyce. Hello, Nancy. And Ryan, because our guest in the Daverhood is singer-songwriter Al Stewart. Now, you remember him. Do you remember The Year of the Cat? I don't know the other lyrics, but it's... What? Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, yes, The Year of the Cat and Time Passages. He's done a lot more music than that, before and after. And as a matter of fact, Al Stewart will be at the Bolton Center on Long Island, on Bayshore, Long Island, on July 22nd. And so, why not have him on this Facebookio program of the stream? And welcome to David from my high school. Yay. He tunes in every Saturday, I believe, as well. So welcome.
When David Lefkowitz tuned in, that was freaky.
Yeah. There was another person with my name, or my doppelganger. I'm not 100% sure. But David Lefkowitz tuned in last week, and it got very weird and meta. So come on back, David Lefkowitz, and say hi. And welcome to what a lovely name she has. I'm not gonna say the full name, but Eileen.
Oh, somebody gave you a thumbs
up. Thumbs up to you too. Whoever thumbed me up is probably Eileen, and Tony as well.
Eileen.
So, Al Stewart will be in the Daverhood talking with us. We'll play a little bit of his music. Unfortunately, and I make this caveat, or what's the word? I make this... Disclaimer every show now. Because we're on Facebook, because we upload the shows on YouTube, I do very little music. Much, much less than I used to. It's a talk show now, more than it used to be a whole eclectic radio show. So I would love to play some Al Stewart.
You also wear costumes.
I will. But that's coming like half an hour.
Secret.
Oh boy. But yeah, I would love to play a lot of Al Stewart. We'll play a little bit of Al Stewart, but we'll certainly talk to him. In fact, he'll be talking to Rabbi Saul Solomon of, I was going to say, of blessed memory. That's horrible.
Oh, God.
What's the opposite of that? Of blessed continuity.
No, I would say of cursed existence.
Rabbi Saul Solomon of blessed incontinence.
No, cursed existence.
Cursed existence. He'll be talking to Al Stewart in the Daverhood just probably about an hour to an hour and a half from now. So you don't want to miss that. Should be a very fun conversation about Stewart's career, music, and did you know that Al Stewart is an oenophile? I'm mispronouncing that, I'm sure. He's an oenophile.
He likes wiener dogs?
Oh, no, that's us.
What is it? Beer?
Well,
wine?
Wine.
Vinophile?
Yeah, he's the O-N-E or something like that.
Yeah,
it's a weird
O-E-N-E-O-E.
but it means he collects fine and fancy wines, has been doing it for decades.
Listen, I watched American Greed. He better check those out.
I know, right?
And Adam spoils everything.
Did he do one about wine?
Yes.
What? Oh.
It was a little blip where he said they were wine experts.
Mm-hmm.
It was about restaurants, and he gave them red wine and white wine, but he colored the white wine red. And then he said they were two red wines, and experts couldn't tell the difference. What is it, sommelier or sommelier?
Oh, well, that's a wine
and then
steward, yeah.
There were two red wines that were like, $1 buck chuck. And he put one in a fancy bottle and one in a plain bottle, and they thought the fancy bottle was more hoo-hoo. So Adam said, there's no difference.
They can, yeah.
It's all, So maybe don't tell Stewart.
Yeah, I have a very special wine palate. I have a wine cleft palate. So my drink wine actually comes through my nose. It's really interesting that way. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, and John. Welcome to John as well. So many people watching in the Daverhood today. I'm so happy. And hey, even if you didn't tune in just for Al Stewart, we have other stuff that we do on the show. We go inside Broadway for News of the Rialto. I don't know why I moved this way for inside Broadway. I guess I'll move
You're
that
blocking
way.
Potato. Don't block Potato.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where's here?
He's hanging up.
Oh, him. Yes, of course. I still have to get the mirror image.
Are you voguing? Vogue.
There you go. Ah, Lord. And Bruce
exercise?
and Jeffrey just tuned in. Welcome.
Yep.
We'll also have a Saturday segue of songs in the news, because even though we don't play a lot of music, we have a segment where we play just a little piece of music, and you have to guess, why am I playing it this week? How is it connected to stuff in the news and current events? And, oh boy, I know you can't wait, hon, for the next installment.
And you've been doing this for like a decade.
I know, right?
I think Hans is now 35 with goiter, and he smokes excessively, I don't think.
And back in this era, 35 would be ancient.
That's
Hans
right.
would be like a great-grandfather on his deathbed.
I hope his calf grows up by now.
It probably,
I hope so.
Maybe in the last chapter they skipped 2 years. Maybe something. But we're almost done with A Cow for Hansel. Probably about 2 or 3 more installments of that marvelous book by Erna Holyer that we are reading to you and with you.
Was that the only book she ever wrote?
No, I told you. Ooh. Erna Holyer had this amazing life, man. She...
Yeah.
What did you do? Hold on. Gotta find it on my
Did she write a
notes.
goat for Dieter? Dieter's goat?
She wrote a gerbil for Richard Gere. It was really good. I'm kidding. Did I know her thing? Oh, maybe I didn't.
I don't know. You could do it next time. Don't hold it up in front of the computer.
Sorry.
White paper's yucky.
Here we go. Erna Holyer. She was born in Bavaria, survived the Nazi era and World War II bombings, married an American soldier. Good way to get out of there.
Hedwig.
Yeah, right.
Hedwig.
Moved to California in 1956.
Yeah.
She survived 2 major heart surgeries and breast cancer.
Maybe that's
It's like
weird.
walking metal.
Yeah.
She did write an autobiography in 2004. That would be amazing.
Called A Cow for Me.
No, she did write Shoes for Daniel.
This is a lame-o.
Well, when the cow died, I guess they took the
God.
skin.
What else did she do?
At the Forest's Edge.
Ooh, that's a risky
That's more
one.
poetic
Risque,
one, I guess.
risque.
And Siggy's Fire Helmet. Which I believe is a gay porn thing.
No, that's like Sigmund Freud.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Siggy's Fire.
Sigmund Freud said 2 things in life are important: work and love. Love and work.
Did he say that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's so Jewish. That is so Jewish.
Sigmund Freud.
I know. Anyway, welcome to Jeffrey and Warren and Michael and Bruce and John and Eileen and David and all the folks tuning in. So we'll have more Cow for Hansel. We'll have a Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We've been doing a horrible limerick every week based on a town or city in Colorado. Today, the town will be, is it Bennett?
Bennett.
Bennett.
Is that real?
Yeah, there's a Bennett, Colorado. Oh, in fact, I have a story about Bennett, Colorado.
Woo!
You have to listen in. Because now, if I remember, I not only do the poem, but I give you a little background about the town, which has nothing to do with the poem.
You're becoming like Mike Peters of...
the Greeley Tribune.
Very nostalgic and... Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a pretty good show.
Your thing should be David Does Historical History of Towns.
That would be a long title. David Does Historical History of Town.
David Does Town History. Yeah.
Okay. Town in...
How about David Ruins Town History?
That's right. David ruins everything. About everything. No, been done. Anyway, welcome also to Glenn and Edward and all the other folks tuning in on this Saturday. So what can we talk about? We can talk about disease. I'm getting better. My back, thank God, is still a little tough in the mornings.
This, update.
We do have a UNC update.
Horrible.
Because we're coming to you from the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, Colorado. And this week at our school, in several buildings of our school.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of people.
I'm not joking about this. Here's well, I can't really read it, can you? Almost. There we go. Update, UNC shuts down 3 kids' camps after outbreak of contagious illness.
You got to read how many people were injured.
Oh, my God. So you have to understand, there's some classes going on over the summer here at UNC in grad classes.
Online, honey.
Yeah. But they have all these buildings free and the gyms free and the cafeteria, so they bring in high schools and camps and, 4-H crowd.
No, they bring in like volleyball, cheerleading, band camp. Wrestling, they have science camps, but then something went horribly wrong with the children.
Like this year at band camp, I caught a virus. No, so here's the deal. This is from the Greeley Trib. 3 kids' summer camps at the University of Northern Colorado were shut down Thursday after multiple campers displayed symptoms of a contagious illness. Go UNC.
Wait.
Go Bears. 36 people at the Summer Enrichment Leadership... What? Oh. The Summer Enrichment, Leadership Enrichment, and Young Child programs exhibited symptoms, and by the way, if you're eating breakfast now, you're going to love this, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, consistent with norovirus.
Noro.
Oh, sorry, norovirus. I need glasses.
It was 36 people.
Yeah. 32 kids aged 10 to 17 and 4 adults were sickened. Nobody hospitalized, said a UNC spokesperson. UNC has contacted the Department of Public Health, and so they shut down the camps 3 days early. They isolated the sick campers and disinfected the buildings, which included Butler Hancock Hall, Candelaria, where I will be teaching partly next fall, Holmes Hall, Michener Library, from whence we get our toys and games.
Holmes is the food place.
Holmes is where one of the food places. Ross Hall.
Woo!
So I'm hoping my potatoes... Can you imagine if all the potatoes got sick and started vomiting?
Or diarrhea.
There'd be vodka everywhere. And the University Center. Yeah. But disinfection is complete, and those buildings are... How do you disinfect an entire building?
You take some kind of cleanser and you wash everything down, I hope.
Well, yeah, can you literally wash every wall, every surface?
When I'm reading this, it makes me look queasy.
Because when they need to get rid of bed bugs from a hotel, they got to close the room, they put plastic...
Yeah, but bed bugs are different. This would be like a germ, like on the surface. It'd be like the flu.
So maybe it dies quickly after it touches a surface or something? Well, anyway, at the moment, I don't have novovirus.
Good.
Fingers crossed, or norovirus. Joyce does not either. If I come down with hantavirus during the middle of this program, one of you kind folks listening, just dial 911 or Beth Sholem Cemetery. One or two of the others, depending on how bad my symptoms are. But anyway, that's what happened this week at this university.
Update. Ketchup does not have to be in the fridge.
Oh, we knew this, but who's telling us this? This may be important because we'll have potato news in a little bit.
It says something against J-Lo. I guess J-Lo thought it needs to be in the fridge.
Wait,
it says ketchup does not have to be in the fridge. Sorry, J-Lo.
Explain this, please.
Okay, Jennifer Lopez weighed in, and she said, if you stored ketchup in the refrigerator, it's not going to work out.
Because?
And then it said...
Why is Jennifer Lawrence... Wait, the other one, Janet Lopez. Yeah.
Jenny from the block, she's Boricua.
Yeah.
She swiped someone's thing off of her account or something because they said they put ketchup in the fridge.
Well, you can't. I've kept ketchup in the fridge for 50 years. You can. Maybe it tastes better outside the fridge.
The girl said, I have trust issues because they don't keep ketchup in the fridge.
She has.
And then it says it's safe to keep it in the room temperature. Long before refrigerators, we had ketchup. The acidity keeps it fresh.
Uh-huh.
In about a month, then you got a problem.
Oh.
It deteriorates.
Only a month?
It deteriorates after 30 days.
Oh, no. I mean, I use a ketchup bottle for about 3 months before I'm done with it.
Oh, my Lord.
What do they say about
Somebody's
mustard?
at Heinz, where do you keep your ketchup?
Yeah. I imagine mayonnaise, you have to be a little more... Oh, look how beautiful. Oh, I'm going to show this to potatoes.
You know why? Because mayonnaise has egg.
Yeah. Ketchup. Thank you for that ketchup update.
That's going to be... Usually we get hit with a lot of them.
And by the way, welcome to Robert and Valerie and Gregory and David and Josephine. But we're also talking about diseases. Well, you get a disease if you eat
and McDonald's, 163 people got tainted salad.
In one McDonald's? Or like...
I hope not.
I hope so. They'd be isolated. Messy. Yeah.
In 10 states.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. One was in a state of diarrhea. The other was in a state of vomiting.
Oh, cyclosporadia.
Oh, that's nasty.
Yeah, that's bad.
I was writing the cyclosporadia the other day.
Iowa, Missouri, Minnesota, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Kentucky and Virginia.
And you know what? The hilarious thing, let me say, is about McDonald's is they're forced almost, because everybody says McDonald's is crap food, it's supersize me, it's all that. Yeah. So they have salads. You can have a salad, and it's healthy, and it makes you feel good, and you lose the weight. And A, of course, you pour the dressing on the salad, it's 8,000 calories. Yes. And B, they're giving people salads that are giving them cyclosporidea. That's the irony. If people had just eaten a good old-fashioned Big Mac with a large fries and a shake, they would have been fine. So there's my diet advice to you folks. If you're going to go to a McDonald's or a Wendy's or an Arby's, splurge once a week, twice a month, have what you really, really want, and eat salad the rest of the time that you make yourself.
Oh, wow.
Well, what else? What else?
No, I'm just looking.
Okay. Well, I also want to tell people, in terms of disease, it's been an interesting time here in Greeley. I went to the bank earlier this week.
Oh.
Not that I have a whole lot of money, God knows, but I go to use the cash machine to deposit a check. Oh, and welcome Art Paul. Art Paul just logged in. Hello, Art Paul. And Josephine and David and Gregory. So I'm on... There's not a line. I just walk up to the machine to deposit checks at our local bank here in Greeley, Colorado. And I glance down to the left of me as I'm trying to make this transaction at this machine. And I notice on the wall, which luckily is painted white.
Could you do it, make chicken stand
there? Actually, he would be the closest, yeah. And I notice on the wall kind of a blackish, fuzzy lump.
Oh.
And I'm like, who? At first I thought it was poop. Because, I don't have my glasses.
You love marmots. You might thought it was a marmot.
Too small for a marmot or a prairie dog. It was just this little clumpy thing on the wall. And I'm like, who? Is that, without my glasses, it could have been poo, could have been just dirt or schmutz that you see on the side of the building. So, brilliant Dave, I'm like, let me get I'm curious. Let me see, what could this be? So I get up closer to this thing on the wall on the side of the bank, and I notice it has toes. These little, they're almost like little stalks with bulbs on the end of them. Little tiny toes. I'm like, oh, a frog! But frogs tend not to be this dark or fuzzy. And also, wasn't moving, wasn't doing anything except sort of clinging there to the side of the building. And I looked a little bit closer, smartly, not too close, and I thought, okay, that is probably a bat. And when I told you about it, you were like, very good thing that you didn't touch it because...
Because there's bat on school that had rabies at school.
Yeah, and also if you see a bat in the daytime,
They
told me.
probably have rabies, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's fun, but maybe. Certainly you're supposed to see bats at night. They're nocturnal. So here's a bat that is right out 11 o'clock in the morning, sunshine, and I'm like clinging to the wall, and I go into the building, and I tell the woman, I say, okay, I'm having a little issue with your cash machine or your check machine. And this is why I was like, I know... I don't know if you can deal with this, but I'm not dealing with this. I think...
I don't know if you can deal with this.
There's a live bat by your money machine, by your cash machine.
Money machine.
And God bless her, she came out, and she did the same thing I did. We kind of looked at it, not getting too close. She's like, yeah, there's a bat. And went in and said, I'm going to call... She gets to call the people who own the building, because the bank does not. The bank just has a lease on the building. But you were saying they found a rabid bat... At UNC. This has been an amazing week for UNC. Where was it? What building?
Let me look it up.
Oh, Joyce is looking.
It was somewhere near near the stands, not the stands. It was the building where they do the stuff for the games, where they report from.
Oh, is it Nottingham Field?
Yeah, let me.
Yeah, there's a building there, and apparently they found a bat and tested it.
UNCO.
While Joyce is looking, let me say hi again to Stevie. Oh, Stevie the comedian. And Peggy and Trevor. Hey, Trevor. Trevor, contact me. I mean, I'm kind of given up on the UNC radio station at this point because I'm doing this instead, and we're podcasting the shows. But hey, if you want to get involved with UNC radio in the fall and bring things back, God bless you. Just let me know, and I can hook you up with some people. And Peggy says, a big message from Peggy.
What'd she say?
Good morning, David. Ooh. How are you with the chocolate diva? It's almost time for my shower. This is way too much information here. Then the real beach main on Saturday, July 28th in the afternoon. I'm so excited. I wish you could come talk with. People need to stop texting and actually write emails again. I'm sorry, Peggy. I'm trying to make sense of this. Good morning, chocolate. I think you are the chocolate diva, right?
I can't find.
You're going to take a shower because I can smell you from here.
Tribune bat.
And then the real beach Maine next Saturday at 2. I don't know. Maine? Are you in Maine? I'm lost here. Welcome to Tom. Also,
it's probably autocorrect, David.
Now hold on. Tom and Trevor are on at the same time. Please tweet or Facebook message each other and talk to each other about the radio station, because you're two of the people who can help turn it back into a radio station again. Please, help. Anyway, welcome to everybody. So what is...
Getting the building closed, it's loading by UNC Bat. Here you go.
God. All right, let's have the appropriate music. Batman. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do, Batman. So, this little shack of a building in Nottingham Field, where we saw like a couple of workmen.
Like Nottingham Field is where, isn't that where
Robin Hood is? Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that's why they called it. I don't know. But
not anymore.
Remember we saw like a couple of workmen go into that building the day before? I thought they were putting like glory holes in there or having some fun. No, this is worse. Follow these guidelines. Do not feed, touch, or handle wild animals. Yeah. And be cautious of stray dogs and cats. That is
Marmots,
true.
too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the prairie dogs are very loving. Most bats don't have rabies. But if it's acting aggressively, lying on the ground, or out during daylight hours, it may be ill. Never pick up or handle a bat. You know, that's actually the motto of the New York Mets these days.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been their motto for quite some time.
Have your pets and your horses and stuff vaccinated. Don't feed wild animals, and keep your pet food outside, which might attract them.
That makes sense.
Don't handle unfamiliar animals, including cats and dogs, even if they appear friendly. Very wise. Keep pets indoors or supervised on a leash. Spay or neuter your pets. The Humane Society of Wells County has locales. Clinics. Okay, but it's the West Building at University's Nottingham Field, closed until further notice. They probably opened it by now, maybe. Because they found a bat in the building and it tested positive. It doesn't say whether it was alive or dead when they found the thing. Because if you're testing a bat for rabies, does it have to be dead by that time? They probably have to kill it. Oh well. This looks like a year for high rabies exposure in animals, said the executive director of the Weld County Health Department. It's very important that people do not touch or go near wild animals. Mm-hmm. Well, there you go. There you go. Oh, here we go. Oh, gosh.
What?
Do I...
I told you it was auto text.
I don't know what I am the worst human being imaginable. I was making fun. I was poking fun at a message that Peggy wrote earlier. And Peggy writes, David, I use voice recognition because I'm blind. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry,
What
Peggy.
did she mean to say, though? What did she mean to say?
I don't know. It was supposed to say, I'm getting ready for my show at the Laurie Beachman Theater this Saturday, July 28th at 2. It's actually next Saturday, July 28th,
Peggy,
2 o'clock.
Don't feel bad. One time I went to say I'm meeting my friends, so I went to say I'm meeting Nancy, and I ended up saying I'm eating Nancy. So apparently I became a cannibal. So don't worry, I do a lot of, I can't type, so I do a lot of voice texting too.
And then that story became much less interesting when it went from eating to meeting, I'll tell you. But you know, remember the time, and I won't use names, but I had someone, and I remembered that somebody was suffering intestinal difficulties, like diarrhea, norovirus-like symptoms, and had bad stuff going on down there. And we're at a party. It might be my birthday party or something like that.
No, they were actually putting the cable in our house.
Yeah, they were helping. This woman and her husband were helping us hook up our house with cable. And we were talking about something, and since my mind invariably wanders to poo and things intestinal, at one point I said, wait, now there's somebody I know somebody I know has some kind of intestinal issue where she's got diarrhea constantly. And it turned out, of course, that I was telling this to the woman who told me about it and said, this is kind of private, don't tell anybody. These are the kinds of things I do, Peggy, so I apologize. I didn't mean to, I've forgotten that you were blind and that you're using, Joyce didn't. She said it was a text recognition.
You're horrible, too, because...
Why am I horrible? I mean, why?
I put,
What?
When we were dating, I said, I'm on lime instead of online, and you said, I like lime in my soda. I should have dumped your butt.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I make fun. Well, I'm an English teacher.
So you weren't then. You were just a dude.
I was a writer, even
when
then.
Was that?
Welcome, by the way, to speaking of libraries and books and things, Karen from the old library where I used to work, and Walker 2. So hello, everybody.
Ooh, I like that name, Walker 2.
No, Walker also, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But welcome to the Daverhood. It is 9:30 already in the morning, Saturday, July 21st, 2018. Our show is called Funny You Don't Look Stewish. Get it? Stewish, because Al Stewart is going to be the guest, with Rabbi Saul Solomon. I wish I could blow my nose off camera. That'd be great.
Me too.
Thank you. So, anything else we need to talk about before we get into Greeley?
Do you want to talk about the nice restaurant you ate at?
We could.
The food you had, yeah.
We were in Loveland, right?
Origins,
was it Fort Collins? Yeah.
No, Loveland.
Loveland, we went to Loveland this week, and we're in a restaurant that we wanted to try.
Mm-hmm. It's like a stone oven, what do you call it?
Wood-fired pizza oven.
Yeah.
But I didn't have pizza. Mm-mm. Well, they made a lobster dish with lobster
pasta, cream sauce?
Creamy lobster pasta dish. Mm-hmm. It was to die. I didn't die. It was to die for, but I lived. But it was so
yummy.
good. Oh. And you also liked your salad, didn't you?
It was, so out here in the Colorado, they have like, everybody makes this, like the quote-unquote high-end places. Mm-hmm. It's a beet salad with, like, mixed greens, 2 types of beets, pistachio, and goat cheese. I ate half of it at the restaurant and went home and added mushrooms and tomatoes and ate the rest. It was absolutely delicious.
Oddly enough,
so yummy.
A salad that good can't be beat. Wrong noise there, but you get it. See? So yeah, that was absolutely yummy. This is this weird thing. I've been on a roll, like a lobster roll, but I've had 3 amazing meals.
Yeah.
And we eat out a lot less than we used to for various reasons, but but the last couple of times
we're more selective.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a duck in a restaurant in Loveland that was
it had ginger, because it had ginger. You never
But the way they cooked it...
And you never had
I've
ginger
had
before.
ginger duck, but it was so good.
Okay.
Now, you didn't like your dish there,
the deal is, I'm a vegetarian. I don't like fried tofu. Like, take my tofu, bake it, do something, don't fry it. I'm tired of fried tofu.
Have you tried freezing it, like for tofu pops?
I don't like anything but good tofu.
All right. Well, anyway, I loved my duck. I'm so proud of my big duck.
And the cuttlefish.
And and at Biaggi's, they have this. Oh, if I tell you, they had a pasta made where the pasta itself was made with cuttlefish ink.
I think it was flavored with the ink.
Yeah.
That's
flavored with ink. Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it was pasta. It was
You love that.
And there was lobster in it. Oh, so good. Oh, my God.
Well, every time we go to Loveland, we'll try a new restaurant.
I'm down with that. We've also eaten runza burgers.
We do know the ones that aren't good, too. Like, friends tell us good and bad. Yeah. No, I know. So I have a friend who lives there. I should ask her, because she's investigated a lot of the downtown restaurants.
Yeah.
Because she lives there, and she told me, like, her experiences, so I'll ask her.
And I was making fun of runza, because they have very standard sort of burgers and things like that.
But they also have those special sandwiches.
But there's also a sandwich where they stuff all the meat with cabbage, which you really can't get anywhere else.
And you know what I like?
The dollar.
Yeah, they have dollar drinks, and you've got a dollar ice cream cone.
They have dollar soft serve cones.
Didn't you get custard? Like frozen custard.
Yeah.
Where are you going to get that? You know, that's like a good deal.
For $1. I mean, you probably can at McDonald's, too, and things like that.
Yeah, but that was good.
It was really, you get a little cup with a swirl custard in it at this place called RUNZA Runza.
You know what I like, too? They have outdoor seating, really nice, like, stone tables. I like that.
Very nice.
And the lady that we always get, sometimes the kid's not there, but the woman's always there. She's very nice. She's, how are you?
Yeah.
Very nice lady.
So, a lot of nice little places in Loveland.
Service,
Yeah. Anyway, just wanted to say that, and been having, in such a rotten summer as it has been.
Do you want to talk about the kid that helped you with your battery?
Well, that's very nice.
Oh, no, you don't have to.
I don't know if there's a story there about that.
Okay, then keep going. It's okay.
I could talk about the coin. The coin rolling I want to talk about.
No.
I could. I'll do a little bit of bitching, and then we'll talk about the...
What? About what?
I'm going to bitch about taxes. Oh, I'm mad.
What taxes?
I'm mad about taxes.
What taxes?
So, taxes are that we pay to live here in whatever. So, we get a bill months ago.
Yeah.
That our taxes, you have to pay our annual taxes, and we don't have it bundled in with our mortgage. We make, because taxes are still pretty damn low in Colorado compared to all these folks in California and New York who are watching this show. I'm not complaining about our property taxes one bit.
Jose.
What I am complaining about is something a little bit shifty by our government. So they give us a bill back in February.
Yeah.
It's like, your tax bill is due, and you can pay
David,
2 installments.
Can I have your keys?
Oh, of course.
I'm going to make more tea.
They're over there.
Okay.
In 2 installments of a certain amount, right? You pay. We don't pay it monthly. It's a lump sum, and there isn't any penalty if you pay half of it twice a year or the full bill. It's not like they start charging you interest or something, or it's more if you don't pay it in one full swoop. So, okay, I figure. Back in February, I pay half the tax bill. And I'm like, here you go, X $100. There you go, thank you very much. Boom, boom, boom. And then tell me, next time the next bill is due, pay that right off. Instead, about a week ago, in the mail, I get a delinquency note. Now, every once in a while, I've missed a credit card bill, or it never came in the mail, or I'll return an overdue library book. But, to be delinquent on taxes, it just makes my blood pressure go boom, 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 right? So I'm like, what do you mean delinquent on taxes? How dare you? I paid this. And I call them immediately, and I say, hey, what the hell are you talking about? I paid, and they're like, no, you paid half back then. And I'm like, yeah, and did you bill me for the rest? Did you let me know, hey, by the way, it's time coming up, or back in mid-June, you were supposed to pay the second half of this bill. Nobody sent me a postcard. Nobody sent me a reminder. Nobody gave me a phone call. I'm supposed to remember to pay half of a bill that I filed away 4 months ago, 3 months, 5 months ago. And I understand it's sort of the onus is kind of on me to remember, but that's not fair. It happened last year too, and this is the reason I'm especially angry, is had to do with my driver's registration. Okay, I'm driving, right? And I realize that it's already March or something, and I'm looking at my wallet and just checking out, make sure I have my insurance thing and all my papers, and I keep stuff in there, and I'm like, hey, whoa, my registration expired in like January, my birthday time. What happened? Where did I forget to cut out the thing? Do I have the file at home? And I realized I had not updated my driver's license registration. My license was fine. And I'm like, why didn't I do this? I go to the place, I go to the DMV, and they say, okay, yeah, sure, you're driving with an expired thing, but just renew it now. Oh, and there's a $100 penalty. Did they send me anything to tell me, hey, you've got to update your registration? There's just a little postcard saying, by the way, sometime in November, a couple of weeks before my birthday, you got to get to the DMV and renew this, or else, you're worse almost than the fine is that if a cop pulls you over and your registration's expired, you're really screwed. But even beyond that, suddenly $100, because the government could not be bothered to put, I don't know what it is for a postcard nowadays, 40 cents or 30-something cents, to say, hey, birthday time equals registration time, get that done. And I know we do pay low taxes still here in Colorado, so maybe there are certain government services that we don't get. Like when we moved here, I was amazed at how well-tended and well-kept everything was, including the roads. Because when I lived for most of my life on Long Island, I grew up in Brooklyn in New York and moved to Long Island as a preteen. You paid up the ass and out the eyes for taxes. And the thing was, well, the schools are so wonderful, and the roads are paved, and the street lights work, and the whatever trees there are manicured, and everything's well tended, and the Republicans are taking care of things, fine. And you bought into that. You bought into that if you were a middle-class homeowner, it cost you $11,000, $13,000, $15,000 a year in taxes to maintain your surroundings. And then I come out to Greeley, Colorado, and the roads are nice, and there's mountains, obviously, more than trees, and they're constantly doing paving and things. And meanwhile, my tax bill is something like $600 or $700 a year. Where's the money coming from? How come they're able to pave roads and lines and fix street lights and stop signs and things with this little money, and it took $1 million to do so in New York? Made me wonder a little bit. And by the way, Stan, oh, I love it. It's getting interactive here. And welcome, by the way, to Marietta and Marcus and Stan and Jay. And Stan says, I was driving last year, and my kid's friend is looking at my license and says, hey, your license is expired. Oh, man, it caught me out there. Right? Am I right? Can I get an amen, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Well, that's how I felt when I looked at my expired registration just by accident. So basically, this is Dave telling you and maybe saving you some money. Note on your calendars. Thank you. Stan says amen. Thank you very much.
Apropos of.
Oh yeah.
No, but
yeah.
with the diseases.
Oh, like I got you. But here's the deal. Note on your calendars 2 or 3 weeks before your birthday. Renew your car registrations, and if you're out here and you're not bundling your tax bill into
driver's license expires.
It'll be on your birthday. Check right now. I'm not. You don't really drive, but check.
No, I need it for the plane.
Oh wow. Well, you can use your passport actually, but. Yeah. Karen, also welcome to Karen. I think she is a new viewer/listener, so welcome to you too. All right. So see, I may have even saved you money, let alone giving you the joy of watching this program. When's your license expire? Oh. While Joyce is looking for her license and registration, ma'am, I want to remind you that we couldn't do this program without the wonderful, kind, and nice people at Hewlett Minutemen.
19, good.
Well, you know what? That's 6 months or a year.
Yeah,
next year.
Yeah.
You might have to renew it.
But that was a very good public service.
See, I'm a public servant. A lot of times I'm more of a pubic servant. But anyway, Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway in Hewlett, Long Island, the aforementioned Long Island. So if you have any job to do, copying, printing, binding, single-sided, double-sided, laminated, bound volume, spiral binding, if you want to put your name or company logo on clothing, on pen and pencil sets, on mugs, on calendars, and you know what? It is time. I hate to say it. Fall is approaching. The Jewish holidays are coming up. Even the regular holidays are only a few months away. So, as opposed to the abnormal Jewish holidays, Hewlett Minuteman Press is the place to go. They're right in the heart of Hewlett, Long Island, across the street from the giant Petco, near all those banks, 2.5 blocks from the LIRR, and the Toron family has owned and operated Hewlett Minuteman since, the mid-1970s, and if you tell them Dave sent you, you get 10% off any job, big or small. So give them a call, 516-569-5577, area code 516-569-5577. They're closed on the weekends in the summer, but they'll be open Monday morning at 8:30 to take your order and help you with everything you need to do. Hewlett Minuteman Press, they are the copy kings. And welcome, excuse me, by the way, I hate when I have to talk and I'm squelching a burp. Welcome to Karen and Gina and Tony. Now, Tony's got the same last name as our guest. I'm wondering if that's a relative.
Maybe.
I mean, it's a common last name, but Tony, say if you happen to be here to listen to Al Stewart, the musician who'll be talking to Rabbi Saul in just a little while. And by the way, Stan wrote back and said, the great thing about the time that we are living in is that I was able to go home and get scolded from my wife while she renewed it online, even with it being expired 4 months. Okay.
Whoa.
So he could do it online. I went and did it in I had to go to the DMV.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Didn't you bring your rabid bat?
I brought my rabid bat to the DMV. That's why they processed me a little quicker than some of the other people. I said, not that I wasn't, I stood by the desk not touching anything. And I'm like, I've got this touch of norovirus. I could touch your desk. I could lay a finger on your coffee cup, or you could process me. I should have threatened and said, I need this fine, this fee you want to charge me, this $100. I'm like, I didn't. So are you ready, my dear?
Yeah.
For Greeley Crimes and Old Times? Oh, good, because the music for that sounds just like this. We go into Greeley, Colorado for Greeley Crimes and Old Times. We do this every week, and it's based on... Oh, I forget to always do this.
What?
It's based on...
Oh, wow.
A column that appears weekly. See, this is more like a TV show now. There's visuals.
Wow.
There's stuff. This is our local newspaper, the Greeley Tribune, which is sometimes sublime.
Or the gnarly trombone.
That's a writer named Pete... Oh, God. Mike Peters.
I was like, what?
Joyce thinks I'm getting Alzheimer's. I'm looking at her going, Pete.
I was like, what? Peter? Cousin Peter?
No,
Peter,
Mike.
Archangel Peter? Peter?
No, Mike Peters. He does a couple of columns in the Greeley Tribune. One of them is called The Gnarly Trombone, which was based on how people used to mispronounce Greeley Tribune. And also something called Cop Log, which is a... They go through the phone calls that come into our Greeley...
Sublimator.
Yeah, that's Stan. I'm not sure.
And someone's from Berlin.
Oh, hello, Beatrice. Beatrice says, hello from Berlin.
You should say it. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin.
See, we're taking Berlin, yes.
We'll take her with us.
And welcome to Steve and John and Beatrice and Frank. Oh, my God. A lot of people tuning in today.
Lovely.
I love it. So, but if you're from all these different places, from Berlin, from Long Island, from New York City... We're here in Greeley, Colorado. Lucky us. But in the Greeley Tribune, They have these columns, one of which is about phone calls that come into the police department of the Greeley and Weld County Police Department. And not all these calls are as urgent as the people think they are. They're kind of funny. And the newspaper collects
but now
them.
some of the bat and wildlife ones might be.
They
Maybe
could
we
be.
underestimated their severity in the past. Like
I know.
The squirrel at the door, that could have been,
Well, I am a rabid fan of this segment, ladies and gentlemen. And we also mix in something called Greeley Old Times, where Mike Peters, again, goes through the newspapers from 100 years ago, and he looks for the weirdest, funniest, most nostalgic stuff that literally was printed in our local paper, and he compiles and collates those as well. So are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Time for Greeley Crimes and Old Times. 21 people are receiving rabies exposure treatment after they visited a baby raccoon at the home of a woman in southern Weld County. Health officials say it is the largest rabies exposure case ever experienced here. This is recent. This is not old times. There's 21 people had to get, rabies shots.
Oh, my God.
The raccoon, taken in by the woman after it was abandoned by its mother, tested positive for rabies.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't she know that it's acting weird?
Honey, I need to go home quickly, and there's something in the laundry room I don't want you to look
no.
at. Yeah.
And what's kind of funny is we have to be even more protective of our old dog.
He kind of looks like...
Because when you look at him now, he's got these beautiful dark beady... I mean, they're all occluded now because he's almost blind. But he still has this adorable face, and it's raccoon-like now.
He does.
Even though he's a wire-haired dachshund. So if you see our dachshund...
But the critter keeper knew he wasn't he said, make sure your dog has rabies shots. He knew the difference. So an expert would know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Now, there's more.
Oh, God.
20 of the people exposed to rabies asked to visit the women's home when they heard about the baby raccoon. So they thought, a cute little raccoon pet.
Yeah.
So they go into the woman's house. Rachel Freeman from the Rachel Freeman from the Department of Public Health put it this way: "It's unusual to see that."
Good.
Now, the woman who took the coon in contacted a local animal shelter, hoping they would take the animal in to rehabilitate it. The shelter could not, but they contacted the health department, thank God.
Ooh.
Oh, man. This is a big story here.
God.
This baby was a wild animal.
Yes.
Well, most 2-year-olds are, said a spokesperson. I think there was some heightened interest in seeing a baby animal in the home. Aww. So far, everyone who was exposed is doing okay. But this is a cautionary case, especially as officials are seeing an influx of rabies cases. But by the way, you get rabies from bites and scratches, of course, but otherwise only through soft tissue contact, so only eyes, mouth, and anus.
Oh, God.
I'm just saying. That
poor baby raccoon.
All those poor people who just wanted to see a little thing and they had to get rabies shots.
Remember when your book club lady had those baby kittens and we all saw them? They were cute.
Well, those were kittens.
They were cute. I can understand that desire.
And I always like to see a little pussy, but thank you. Ow! Ow! 2! Count them, 2.
Yeah.
Mysterious notes found in Greeley have been turned over to government officials.
Uh-oh.
One note found at the Greeley Creamery.
Was it written by a hobo?
Maybe. Possibly. Because this first note said, "Latest German paper money sold here." The other note was found in the Tribune Republican newsroom. A long message supporting the Irish Revolution. God. And, interesting times back in 1918 in this place. Now, tobacco chewers in Greeley.
Oh, jeez.
And funny, you don't look Jewish. Tobacco chewers in Greeley received a warning from a law court in California.
Whoa.
It seems as though pieces of a decomposed human toe
Oh, God, David.
have been found in some containers of chewing tobacco.
It's just like every outbreak. I mean, that's like, what is it, Studs Terkel, The Jungle, where people fall in the vat and they keep making the sausage, right?
Oh, it was Upton Sinclair, right. The meat, and this is beautiful. This is beautiful. If you find a toe in your tobacco,
God.
the California attorneys warned The container should be thrown away.
Yes. Good job. Good advice.
Can you imagine back in 1918? I paid $8 for this. Well, I'm not going to smoke that, but this looks all right here. Yeah. Oh, there's got to be some kind of joke about that.
That's like pre-FDA, though, so.
When was the FDA?
I mean, or maybe like, I don't know. Probably after that incident.
That's right. Nope. No, I'm racking my brains for a cigarette/foot joke.
I'm thinking of Dados, toes, Dados, I don't know.
Yeah. Nails.
I think there's trouble afoot. Maybe that's, you know.
Oh, okay, yeah. The
Maybe that was the Golden Arch.
This little piggy went to William Morris. This little piggy went to Pall Mall.
God.
All right, here we go.
Yeesh.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, okay. I did think of a cigarette/toe joke. I do enjoy putting my lips to a camel toe, but it's somehow different. Okay, camels, a little camel toe. Comedy. All right. Oh! Important, very exciting. This bell.
Two of them.
Potato alert! Yes, we have a potato alert in Greeley Crimes and Old Times today, ladies and gentlemen, because in the cooking column of the Greeley Tribune Republican newspaper,
Wow.
the potato
Yes.
was featured.
Of course.
It gave recipes for potato bread, potato biscuits, potato chocolate cake, and potato cookies.
And I love the chocolate, but the potato chocolate cake, no.
No, yeah, of course. Imagine, what do you think the spud nut is? Those are potato
or
donuts.
like when people are premenstrual, they eat potato chips and chocolate, salt and sweet.
There
Yeah,
you
that's
go.
true.
Guess what day of the week the story ran?
I don't know. Potato Day?
Friday.
That is awesome. Here.
Oh, sorry. I keep hitting the drill.
This is the one you want. This one.
Oh, and Stan adds, no latkes. Actually, back then, Stan, I don't know how many Jews were in Greeley.
No, they were the Irish Revolution people.
Yeah, right. Let's see. We're doing Greeley Crimes and Old Times, by the way. Police responded to North 45th Avenue Court. How'd you like to write that in an envelope?
Listen, it's not 8th and 8th, so it's fine.
Yeah. No, but imagine every time you had, especially before there were...
You do AVCT.
Yeah? Oh.
AVECT.
I guess. That's cheating, though. NABCT. Even then, even with the acronyms, it's a little much.
Thank goodness for the emails.
Yeah, right. And the labels that you put on that are pre-done. Because back in the day, man, like when I was in elementary school and you had to write a letter, it was like, from David Lefkowitz, North 45th Avenue Court Circle,
yes,
roundabout.
Apartment number 712-H-QRT. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but the police had to go to North 45th Avenue Court for a report of a man selling doorbells door to door.
Oh, wait, we have a bell. Hold on.
We must have a bell.
Wait, okay.
If I had a bell. Oh, that's excellent. I'd be dinging. So this man is selling doorbells door to door. Interestingly, the salesman didn't ring the caller's doorbell, but banged on the front door instead.
Why?
Well, because the customer had a working doorbell. Why should Oh. Police responded to 60th Avenue for a woman who, and I'm doing air quotes for those of you listening on radio, for a woman who accidentally stole her sister's Xbox and pawned it. Oops.
Now, I understand, okay, so I know what's in my home, so I would know if I bought an Xbox, right?
Right. Well, you would know that you saw an Xbox sitting there, you didn't buy it.
And it's not mine, yeah.
And instead of playing with
then
it...
maybe I'm driving and then I just go into the pawn store? I mean...
Yeah. And you figure you were going to pawn your guitar, but you thought the guitar looked like a box, and you ended up pawning a box.
I just don't... That's bizarre. That's a little sibling issue.
In related news...
They need Dr. Phil.
Did you hear about the guy who accidentally sided with Russia over the Department of Justice?
Whoa.
Yeah, no kidding. Anyway. Let's see. 2 men
Yes.
were fined, and they were just fined. They were fined for driving over a fire hose.
Oh, maybe they're the ones who killed the statue of the police guy. Part of their notorious rampage.
Well, thing is, they ran over the fire hose while the firemen were fighting a house fire.
Oh my God! What?
One man was fined
We don't have a fireman thing.
Oh, woo!
Oh, that's good.
We don't have a siren. Yeah, woo!
No. No, that's not a good
No,
one.
that's not. That's a very happy fireman. So one guy was fined $5, but the other guy was fined $10 because after running over the hose, he sassed at the firemen.
Whoa!
Do not sass your firemen, ladies and gentlemen.
Sassy. Maybe he's the owner of Sassy Bags.
He could be.
Maybe he's they're just his descendants. You know?
That's an in-joke in Colorado, or in Greeley here, because we have 2 stores in downtown Greeley.
2, yeah.
Warm Hugs.
No, that doesn't have the same thing. It's Sassy Bags and like something galore, glitter galore.
Oh, yeah, that's new. Glitter galore, Sassy Bags,
It
and Warm Hugs.
disturbs me that you know so much about this.
Yeah,
That
right.
disturbs me.
Oh, yeah. Down...
You're such a maven.
With my back, I've got gassy bags, if you know what I'm saying, down there. By the way, it is 10 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Time, here in Greeley, Colorado. Ding, ding.
At the tone, it will be
10 o'clock, Mountain Time, noon Eastern Time.
Unless you live on an Avenue Court, then it's never 10 o'clock.
And you are watching the Dave's Gone By Facebook program of The Stream. I'm Dave Lefkowitz, that is my wife Joyce, and we mix comedy and talk and humor and a little bit of music as well every Saturday here through the auspices of the University of Northern Colorado. What else? Oh, we're in the middle of Greeley Crimes and Old Times, which we enjoy doing with sound effects. Thank you. Okay. You're ready for more?
Sure.
Or is anybody ready for more of this? Here we go. Police respond. Oh, no, we got that. Police responded to 24th Street and an intoxicated man who threw himself against a wall when he wasn't given a cigarette. I guess he. They were sparing him smoking a toe. And he must have gotten mad and threw himself against the wall. Oh, well. By the way, welcome to all these folks who've been tuning in. Stan and Joe and Peggy and Paul and Annette. And, oh, my God, tons of comments as well. I can't see them all. And Eileen and, Stan is saying hi to everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stan, you're the social butterfly.
You are indeed. Now, police responded to 28th Street. And a man who tried to sell the caller a cutting board and towels.
It's like a bad Tupperware versus Mary Kay, right?
And the man left the items on the caller's patio. It's like, you know what? You think you don't want them, but I'm going to leave you these things on your patio.
No,
I'll come back in a couple of days.
Sorry, no,
you'll pay me. You'll love them.
No.
I'm just
not a good salesman.
Do you remember back in the day when you were growing up in Brooklyn and Queens and etc. And the cutting board and towel man would come on.
Yes, I do.
Ding da ding da ding da ding da ding. Cutting boards and towels. Ding da dum da diddly do. Cutting boards, towels. Come on, come out. But we used to, when I was growing up, there were milkmen. We had Barry the Seltzer man.
We had a paper delivery.
Right. And there was we never used them, but there was the knife sharpening
and my
truck.
grandma had the laundry guy would come all the time, get laundry.
Really?
We had a laundry truck. He would come in and deliver laundry.
That I never, no, I never saw that. But
I liked him.
I love this idea that you could run out to a truck with scissors. Woo! You're not supposed to run with scissors, but if you see the scissor truck and you want your scissors sharpened.
You would think it's a dangerous job, right? I mean,
Now this is getting very weird here.
What?
Stan said hi to Annette. And he says, Annette babysat me, cut my hair, rubbed my back.
That sounds like a Leonard Cohen song.
That sounds like a Me Too moment here. She rubbed anything lower than your back, you need to contact the police, Dan.
Yeah, it's just, Stan, it's the words #MeToo.
Yeah, right. And by the way, remember that Rabbi Saul Solomon, who is a member of the Me Jew movement, just so you know, he'll be talking to Al Stewart later in the program. We'll also have our Saturday segue of songs in the news. We'll have more story time with a cow. for Hansel, and what else? Colorado,
What else could you
Limerick.
possibly want? Oh, Ben.
Yeah. Well, again, we're going to skip Dave's Big Dictionary because we might not have time
You
for
sure
it.
I could pick a word?
No, I really...
Oh,
we
yeah,
no,
I'm
we don't have
sorry.
time.
It's my fault.
Ew!
What?
Ew! Stands out. This babysitter...
No, I don't want to know. No.
What do you mean she pulled a twig out of you? Where? What part of you did she pull a twig out of?
I think it was 29th Avenue Court.
This sounds like Rock Hudson's autopsy
Keep
now.
going,
All right. Anyway.
Let's stand, rest, and be.
Yeah. Let's get through this segment.
Stand, just breathe. Just breathe.
All right, here we go. Oh, the city.
Aren't you going to do potato news later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is important. The city is getting complaints from neighbors. Now, this is, I'll warn you immediately, this is 100 years ago. City is getting complaints from neighbors because a family of Negroes...
Oh, my God.
Well, it's spelled with a small N.
Okay.
Has moved into a house on 10th and 10th.
Whoa.
Not 8th and 8th, 10th and 10th. The police chief, now check this out, both the police chief and the mayor refused to force the family out of the house.
Good.
And by the way, the newspaper, this is Mike Peters adding this, I'm sure, the term Negroes was commonly used and acceptable 100 years ago to describe African Americans. Okay.
You know, I would not, that must be tough in Greeley.
So, but they stayed, one assumes they stayed, but that is the famous play by Lorraine Hansberry.
You know I'm stupid.
You know the play, Racing in the Sun.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the black family wants to move into the southern neighborhood. They're just trying to not have them.
I was thinking Cry Beloved Country, but that's a whole other...
Yeah, that's literally another country, yeah.
I love that. Want me to look, found it?
Yeah, no, it's Racing in the Sun.
Okay.
Now, I wanted to do this last week. We ran out of time. But we have a dateline. On Greeley Crimes and Old Times, sometimes we move away from Greeley, Colorado, to do some news from somewhere else. And now we go back to our old stomping ground, Times Square, Manhattan. Ooh. New York City. Now this has been this would have been a great week for Ripley's, like Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Yeah.
Because of this story. This would have been this is fabulous.
Well, is it
except of course
hot dogs?
Well, no, that's not.
Did they make a wax figure of Joey Chestnut?
They should. No, but Ripley, unfortunately, they're the main company owners of those duck boats that sank in...
Oh, my God.
So we'll get to that later, but...
Oh, my God, I don't want to hear that.
Earlier in the week, Ripley's, the New York outlet of Ripley's, had a visit on July 11th, so it was about 2 weeks ago, from Sridhar Chalal of Pune, India.
Oh, no. Oh, this one's grossy.
You got to find the video on this.
Just call him Shri.
Shri is 82 years old. There is something that Shri has not done since 1952.
I hope it's not pooping.
No. Do you remember what this was? That's right. Sridhar Chalal has not cut his fingernails on one hand since 1952.
How come they didn't break? My nails break all the time.
After a certain period, they toughen, it's calcified.
But how do you keep them?
But this is the amazing thing. He has the longest fingernails in the history of the world. If you saw the video, if you saw the pictures of him, they're actually spooled around like those old movie rolls. If you showed 16-millimeter movies. Yeah. He's finally ready to cut them. Wow. So he came to New York on July 11th and at a ceremony, they cut his fingernails and they put them in a display case now. They're displayed at Ripley's in Manhattan.
What did they cut them with, like a scissor?
Now this is what happened. This is how, your generativity, your productivity is as a teacher, as a professor. Yeah. You give back, you give to the next generation and beyond by teaching people. I try and make people, I teach some English classes here, write better and love language and appreciate the importance of being particularly clear when you're writing. That is my give back to the world, to future generations, to youth. But teachers can do more. Okay. Teachers can inspire. Chalal was inspired to grow his fingernails after a teacher told him off when he accidentally broke a very long nail that the teacher had grown. So when this kid was 14, he had a teacher with a very long fingernail. Somehow this kid broke it, because when they're only a few months long, I guess they're easily breakable.
Yeah.
And the teacher told Chalal he would not understand the kind of care it took not to break a long nail unless he did it himself.
Whoa, that's like a really deep life lesson.
Yeah. So Chalal did this to the tune of 29 feet and 10 inches. His fingernail was the length of a London bus. All.
Oh, David.
His nails, now here's the wonderful, and you have to see, they were literally using like a bandsaw to cut each nail down. But here's the funny part. I mean, it's funny if you're a sick person like me. Chalal said his nails were so fragile, he had to stay still while sleeping, and he was in constant pain. He was doing this since 1952. You would figure, I have back pain, a week and a half I go to the doctor.
Yeah.
If you have nail pain, guess what?
How did he work?
How do you do it? Well, other hand, I don't know. I don't know what he did for a living, honestly.
I hope he wasn't a hairdresser.
He would be great for cars. He could go down into, the oil. Like, you need, you're down about a quart.
WD, yeah.
He would be Edward Chalalserhands if he was the barber.
Oh, God.
He'd be good for combing hair, I can't even... It's just this idea of living with pain for no reason since 1952. That's absolutely amazing. And also, I know how he made money. For $20, he'd scratch your back. For $25, he wouldn't scratch your back. So, yay for Mr. Chalal. And yes, there is video. If you go in your news feeds and you look for Ripley, and Sridhar Chalal, fingernail guy, you can find it. And by the way, welcome to Vinaya. Oh, Vinaya!
Vinay.
Oh, is it called Vinay?
Vinay.
See,
I always say
I've lived next to this woman for 9 years.
I say Vinay too. It's Vinay. I always say it wrong.
Well, welcome, neighbor Vinay, and welcome to Shane, our old friend Shane.
Shane.
Come back, Shane.
Whatever happened? Is Bruce on?
I haven't seen Bruce today.
Oh,
he may be there. There's a lot of people who sign on.
Bruce, if you're there, I hope you're okay, Bruce.
Yeah, please say hi.
Late sleeper.
And Chauncey's not here yet, as far as I can tell. Some of our other regulars, and that guy from England, I don't see him anymore.
A lot of people go on vacation in summer,
Well, come back, everybody. Shane and Stan and Vinay and other folks are here, too. So we welcome to everyone in the Daverhood. Let's do one or two more Greeley Crimes and Old Times, and then, very importantly, we've got potato news coming at you.
His hat's falling off.
I know, this is a very... I couldn't keep him on the wall because his hat is very askew. See, there you go. Oh, but it keeps my head brain in. All right, there you go, potato. Little more Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Police responded to 10th Avenue and 5th Street for a report of a stray cat.
Wait.
No, we need the cat noise. Now, the Humane Society refused to take the cat because, quote, it smelled like death.
Oh, God.
And was drooling from its mouth. That's every college student here on a Saturday night.
Why don't they? Well, so who takes it?
I don't know. Maybe animal control, just, as opposed to the Humane Society.
Oh.
But, the smelling like death, it's a garbage cat, sure, but drooling might be maybe it came into contact with a bat.
Or the raccoon.
Yeah. Anywho, excuse me, police responded to 28th Street, and a man... Wait, I'm sorry, that was the cutting board and towel guy. I did that one already,
He's
forgive
back
me.
Again.
But on 37th Avenue, there was a suspicious person.
Doing what?
The caller said a man drives into the neighborhood every couple of days, looks at the houses, and then leaves. So he comes into the neighborhood, scans the houses, and then leaves. The suspicious person was...
Road crew?
No.
Postman?
No.
Security man?
No. A nurse who regularly checks on the caller. Yep.
Ay.
Yep. So, the dementia, anyone? Yeah, okay.
You know what? You gotta have something.
Well, you know what I have? I've got this radio program, Dave's Gone By, every Saturday from 9 until noon or thereabouts, courtesy of the University of Northern Colorado auspices and my office auspices. We've been doing Greeley Crimes and Old Times, having a great time with that. But, you know, this is all about news for humans. And people who live here in Colorado or want to know about Colorado. But we have, as you can see in this room, and I won't get you on camera, but I want to show everybody. There's a lot of potatoes.
Show me your wallpaper.
Okay, if I turn this around here, there's our wallpaper. On the other side of the room.
And the balloons.
Oh, of course. Here we go. Let's see if I can do this without.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Do you see them? There's our Idaho potato balloons.
Yeah, you got some. Yeah.
Panoramic view in the Daverhood here. So, potatoes are very important to me for really no good reason. And that's why, for their sake, every week we try and do something called Potato News. And this is news specifically put together for potatoes. Are you ready for Potato News?
Yes.
Let me make sure that our potato newscaster is ready.
Oh, no.
He's right in the next room. I'm going to bring him in. Let's get the party started. You say potato, I say potato. Let's call the whole thing Potato News. I gotta stop this thing anyway. Oh, yes, Potato News, ladies and gentlemen. Help!
Stand up.
All right, hold on.
Stand up. Take your arms out.
Help me!
Take this arm out.
Okay. I need a dresser.
Here you go.
And a bureau drawer. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
Oh, thank you. Potato News, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, the things I go through for no money. All right, here we go.
Did you bring your hat?
No, I didn't bring the hat, but I can wear this hat. That works. Potato News, ladies and gentlemen, on Dave's Gone By. Good morning. This is Spudward R. Murrow with the Potato News for today, July 21st, 2018. Dateline, Pyongyang, North Korea.
Oh, my God.
A week ago, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo visited North Korea for high-level talks about their nuclear program. But Korean leader Kim Jong-un was not present. It turns out Kim had gone far away to Samjinyan, near the Chinese border, to visit the Zhonghong potato farm.
Wow.
Yeah. State News says that Kim told the owners to keep planting high-yield crops that taste good and, quote, raise the quality of potato production. We just think it's a shame our Secretary of State didn't rename himself Mike Pompeo.
Oh, God.
Little humor in the Potato News, ladies and gentlemen. Dateline Chicago. Oh, there goes my hat. Drivers along I-90-94 were treated to a disturbing highway sign last week. The electronic billboard, which is run by the Illinois Department of Transportation for Traffic Information and Directions, read, quote, no texting, no speeding, no ketchup. The sign follows in a long Chicago tradition of rejecting the beautiful condiment ketchup in favor of its poorer cousins mustard and relish on everything from hot dogs to steak to tofu fries. When the editor-in-chief of thetakeout.com posted a photo of the sign on Twitter, angry Chicagoans wrote back. Bill said, keep ketchup off your hot dogs or you will be deported from Chicago immediately. Another tweet. No ketchup. Ketchup should really be first. It is arguably the most important. Some news from the Great Satan, ladies and gentlemen. The Lay's Company has announced 8 new flavors for its annual limited run of specialty potato chips. Available only through late September and just regionally, the chip flavors will include Cajun Spice, Chili con Queso, Chesapeake Crab Bay Spice, deep dish pizza, sweet Thai chili, New England lobster roll, pimento cheese, fried pickles with ranch. Yeah. Also returning for a limited run, wavy West Coast truffle fries, wavy fried green tomatoes, and ketchup. Talk about a mixed message. Looking at the weather map, hot, 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 at least for the weekend. So keep soaking up water and cooling down with dirt and manure.
Ugh.
Rain.
God.
Rain begins the week, pushing temperatures down to the 80s. Still some sunshine, though, so you'll want to soak up those rays while protesting those lays. This has been the Potato News with me, Spudward R. Murrow. Good night and good growth. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very, very much to Spudward R. Murrow for helping us with the Potato News on this Saturday, July 18th. We can see... You're right, hon?
I shoved the chair in my back.
Oh, do you want to turn on the... You can use my computer. Just,
I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I'll have to log in, so just...
I can log in, don't worry.
Cool. Anyway... We've got more of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream for you here live on this Saturday, July 21st, 2018. We're calling this Funny You Don't Look Stewish. It's our 660th episode. Are you okay? 660th episode of the program. Hosted by me, Dave Lefkowitz. Co-hosted for the first part of the program by the lady behind me, Joyce.
Oh!
What? What is the matter here? What's going on?
I'm having trouble.
It's not as if there's anything distracting in this room.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So we've got Al Stewart coming up, talking to Rabbi Saul Solomon in the Daverhood. We also have our Saturday Segue of Songs in the News. We'll have a Colorado Limerick of the Damned. And we will have more of Storytime and a cow for Hansel. All coming up on the Dave's Gone By program. But before all that, we'll get a little bit more serious in the Daverhood, as opposed to Sirius XM, which is where I really wish this show was. But I'm a theater person. I've been a theater critic for about 30 years now. I'm a playwright, actor, director, all that sort of thing. So I love talking about the theater, Broadway, and keeping people posted. Because, you know, if a movie comes out, you hear everything about it. If some big pop star puts out an album or a digital release, it's all over TMZ, it's in the papers, etc. But when stuff happens in the theater in New York on Broadway, that's important too. And you really don't hear about it as much, except on this program with Inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Inside Broadway we go every Saturday here on Dave's Gone By, just to talk a little bit about the theater that I love. And speaking of theater, I'll do a plug. Joyce found this postcard, of course, for the musical, that they're doing here at UNC as part of Little Theater of the Rockies, our summer theater season.
Apropos of the outbreak.
Right. If we're talking about rabies or norovirus or hantavirus or leprosy or hangnail, I'm just going to hold this up right like this. Catch Me If You Can is playing at Little Theater of the Rockies. It's in the big theater on campus, Fraser Hall, next weekend from Thursday through Sunday. And my good friend Brian, who is actually a friend of the Daverhood. He was Brian, oh my God.
Friel?
No.
Luttig?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Brian. He's part of my writers group, and I'm forgetting his name. But he's...
S. Ehrlich?
No. Brian...
He wrote the book. What's the name of the book?
Not Brian Jones. Oh.
Smith?
I want to say Smith, but it's not. I'm so sorry, Brian. Anyway, Brian is in it. So go see Catch Me If You Can right here on campus. I saw the show on Broadway, and it's got some good stuff in it. It's I think Terrence McNally did the book, and it's all about this Frank Abagnale guy who has all these different personae I mean, he's an airline pilot, he's a surgeon. However, he never got a degree or any real training in any of these things. But he manages to Zelig-like chameleon his way into these different careers. And there's this FBI guy who's trying to track him down. So, catch me if you can this coming weekend. Not this week, but next, here at UNC. But anyway, moving back to New York. I know Brian's name is going to pop into my head.
What did he write?
He wrote a horror book. He writes a lot of dark horror, zombie fiction stuff, too. He's really good. But he's acting in this. Anyway. Congratulations to the current Broadway revival of Mart Crowley's The Boys in the Band. This was a landmark gay play literally 50 years ago. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago on this program, we interviewed Lawrence Luckinbill, who was in the original off-Broadway cast of The Boys in the Band. Now they brought it back in a big Broadway production, got great reviews. It's got Jim Parsons in it from Big Bang Theory, Zachary Quinto, Matt Bomer, Andrew Rannells. You might remember him from the Book of Mormon. Anyway, it just recouped its investment. It was a pretty relatively cheap show by Broadway standards these days, $3.5 million, and it recouped. It opened on May 31st, and it's running only until August 11th because it's got a couple of famous people in it, and they can't stay forever. So they're going to close the show, but they know that they've broken even. That's what it means when a show recoups, when it goes into the black from the red. It is technically a hit because it made back its $3.5 million investment, and between now and August 11th, they're going to see some profit. They're going to make some gravy. So congratulations to The Boys in the Band. A show that has had mostly bad news up until now, but hey, if the reviews are good, all the fortunes could turn right around. But the comedy, a dark...
Hapsick?
No, he's a lighting designer here at BRION.
I'm looking up in the teaching schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me.
BRION. Brian... This is killing me. Anyway, young Jean Lee, a new-ish playwright, never been on Broadway before, her dark comedy Straight White Men is going to be opening tomorrow night.
Humphrey?
Brian Humphreys, that's it.
Yay!
Thank you. Brian Humphrey, thank you so much.
The interwebs are good.
Straight White Men opens tomorrow at Broadway's Helen Hayes Theater. So here's the deal. Second Stage is producing this show. Probably a little bit controversial just because of the title, Straight White Men, but since it's written by a woman, I don't know her gender or her orientation. I guess that takes away some of the potentially controversial aspects of the show. But what's been the real sticking point is it's had two leading men come and go already. So it was supposed to star Tom Skerritt. And just as they were going into previews, Skerritt left for personal reasons, family reasons, whatever. And they brought in another actor named Dennis Arndt. And he was in that show with Mary Louise Parker a couple of seasons ago. So he's in there rehearsing. They've got the understudy playing it, and Arndt is rehearsing the other times and trying to get the show off the ground. He ends up having, I guess, artistic differences with the director, Anna D. Shapiro. He leaves like 3 weeks before the show's about to open. So they just said, you know what? We'll open with the understudy. So here's the lucky guy. This is his lottery moment. Armie Hammer is his name. He's starring in Straight White Men, and it's all about a father and his sons who gather together on Christmas Eve. And again, some of the chat and scuttlebutt about the show is that it's a very good, a worthwhile play. Whether it can overcome all the Sturm und Drang getting it to Broadway shall be seen. But it opens tomorrow night at the Helen Hayes Theater. Now, another show, even though we're in the middle of nowhere time in August, we have another Broadway show opening this week on Thursday night at the Hudson Theater. They've got the beat, they've got the beat. I don't. But the Broadway musical Head Over Heels is another jukebox tuner featuring songs by the Go-Go's. So you'll hear Vacation and Our Lips Are Sealed and We've Got the Beat. The book is by James Magruder and Jeff Whitty, who are, check this out, they're loosely adapting a poem called Arcadia by Sir Philip Sidney into a Broadway musical with the Go-Go's music. Go figure. It's all about, quote, oh, thank you, here it is. Yeah. Mistaken identities, love triangles, sexual awakening, and self-discovery. It's almost kind of Shakespearean in that way, but it's called Head Over Heels. It features Jeremy Kushner, Rachel York, and Taylor Iman Jones on Broadway, opening this week. Well, this is the cool thing. I get to tell you about Broadway shows that are opening, and I get to do that on Inside Broadway, thanks to a wonderful company called Total Theater. They are folks who do two important things. First of all, they put out this hard copy publication, Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway, since 1944. Every month, but sometimes 2 times a month, you get this hard copy journal. Let's page through it, shall we? Here, on this page, table of contents if you need it, a guide to all the shows opening in the coming Broadway season, as well as shows that are still running from previous seasons, and a little map of the Broadway district. Then we've got a guide to each theater on Broadway and what's playing in it and for how long. Then a whole page of a guide to the press agents. These are the folks that you contact who are handling the Broadway shows. If you want to contact people involved or know anything about those productions, these are the folks to call, the press agents. Then, we get to the meat of the magazine, Day by Day Broadway, when shows are still running or starting previews, opening, and closing. Every single show on Broadway. And then, this is what nobody else does. They do it for off and off Broadway as well. Look at these listings. All these shows, where they are, the contact information, the press person, opening, closing, and starting previews. Is that enough for a magazine? It almost is. But then we go further in, and that's when you get our comprehensive listings.
Tell me about the gossip.
So we do that too. Hold on. Thanks for reminding me. Wow. Almost forgot that. Every single show on Broadway, who created it, the cast, the tech, the design people, what the show is about, plus this is a list of all the producers who are involved in a lot of their contact information. Maybe you've got a Broadway show that you think would be perfect for a certain theater or a musical that you're working on, and you want to contact producers. How do you find them? Here's how, in the pages of Performing Arts Insider, because for every single Broadway show, we have that listing. And for every single off and off-Broadway show, we have those listings as well. And then, as Joyce said, there's a rumors column, which is telling people, hey, did you know that this show is probably going to come to Broadway next year? How do you find that out? Pages of Performing Arts Insider. There's an index in the back, and also, of course, information about a little radio show that I happen to host. It's all in these pages, and you can subscribe by going to performingartsinsider.com. Performingartsinsider.com. You can also pick up a single issue if you're in Manhattan at the Drama Book Shop and Theater Circle in Midtown in the West 40s. Or go to performingartsinsider.com. You can buy a single issue. You can buy the 21 issues per year. It's expensive. But people who subscribe, they renew year after year, because there's no other place you can get the info of Performing Arts Insider. And I also just want to give a plug to the Total Theater Company that puts out this magazine, because they have a free website called totaltheater.com. It is filled with Broadway reviews, off and off-Broadway, regional theater, international theater, even festivals like the Shaw Festival and the Stratford Festival. Just go to totaltheater.com. If you click on the What's New link, that'll bring you to hyperlinks of reviews that are of shows that are still running, whether they're in New York or all over the world. Or you can be more leisurely and click on the Criticopia button for all the reviews on the site, and there are thousands of them. As a matter of fact, there's another link we're compiling of just a list of every show reviewed on the website. And believe me, it is hundreds and hundreds of them. totaltheater.com. Well, we're talking totally about theater in the Inside Broadway segment of Dave's Gone By. It's a little bit after 10:30, and we move on to more theater news. Bruce! Bruce! That's the chant you've been hearing for months now on Broadway. And we'll be hearing for a few more months up until Bruce Springsteen leaves his one-man show on December 15th. Am I going to get to see it? No, I'm not going to. And it's no tickets, and tickets are incredibly expensive. If you can get them, too bad. Good luck. Guess we're out in the cold. Or are we? It was announced this week that the Bruce Springsteen on Broadway show is going to be taped for Netflix, and it's going to start going out live, or it'll be pre-taped, and then as of December 15th, the last night of Bruce Springsteen's live show, everybody can join in, and you can watch the Netflix broadcast of Springsteen on Broadway at the Walter Kerr Theater. And again, it's not him and the E Street Band, it's him with just piano and guitar, his wife Patty Scalfa, or Shalfa, however you pronounce that. What is it? Scialfa. She joins him for a song or two. But anyway, if you didn't get to see it, or if you were fascinated by his performance on the Tony Awards, I just kept waiting for a song to kick in, to be quite honest. But I want to check it out, and I can. And you can if you get Netflix towards the very end of the year. And speaking of shows being recorded and watchable later, wow! That was terrible. The movie version of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats is going forward, and they've announced some casting this week. So the movie starts shooting in November, and the Daily Mail reports that Jennifer Hudson will be playing Grisabella. She's the one who sings Memory. James Corden will be in it because he was in Into the Woods and he's in everything musical. Taylor Swift will have a role. She'll be playing a nice pussy. And then Ian McKellen. He's probably playing Old Deuteronomy, or I don't know what he'll be playing. But those are among the cast people who are announced for Cats. It's being directed by Tom Hooper, who did that lovely movie called The King's Speech a few years ago. I don't know how that qualifies him to direct Cats, but hey. And then Lee Hall, who wrote the book for the musical Billy Elliot. She is doing the screenplay for Cats, the movie. Oh, and a little bit of unhappy news for people in the Daverhood, friends of the Daverhood, because, every week we tell you that the Broadway show School of Rock is co-written by our friend Glenn Slater. It's an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, just like Cats is, but Glenn Slater wrote the lyrics, and Julian Fellows wrote the book. Well, School of Rock has had a very nice run, but it is coming to an end on January 20th, 2019. So about half a year from now, they will close School of Rock on Broadway at the Winter Garden Theater after 31 previews and 1,307 regular performances. There's a London production still going on. There is a national tour, and they're going to open a sit-down production in Melbourne, Australia. So you will have other chances to see They should make a movie of the musical version of School of Rock. I think that would work pretty well. It's, the show. It's based on the 2003 screenplay and film written by Mike White about a substitute music teacher getting uptight kids to rock out. And I remember going into the show and thinking, this might be all right. And Andrew Lloyd Webber hadn't had a hit in America for a very long time, and came out of the show, had a terrific time. The score is good, it's fun, it's funny, it's really enjoyable. It has been a deserved hit for Glenn Slater, Julian Fellows, and Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's School of Rock, and you have another half year to catch it at Broadway's, was it the Winter Garden? I believe so, the Winter Garden Theater. A couple of people to say goodbye to. Sob, sob, sniffle, sniffle. Farewell to playwright Hugh Whitemore. He died on Wednesday at the age of 82. Not perhaps a household name around these parts, but you might have heard of a couple of his works. He studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London, and then first thing he did was started to adapt classic novels for television shows. Later, he was known more for political histories and spy intrigue. He wrote about plays and pieces about Winston Churchill and Richard Nixon. His plays and screenplays included Stevie, which, do you remember that one? Maggie Smith? Oh, no, not Maggie Smith, excuse me. Glenda Jackson starred in the movie. It was all about poet Stevie Smith, and who had this wild imagination, but she actually lived almost like Emily Dickinson did, in one basic place and didn't go out and didn't do anything, but lived in her imagination. So that was a Hugh Whitemore piece, Pack of Lies, about Americans spying on Russia. Go figure. And then his best-known play, Breaking the Code. I remember seeing that years ago with Derek Jacobi. This was before the Benedict Cumberbatch movie about Alan Turing, the spy during World War II, cracking the German code. The first real person to tackle that story was Hugh Whitemore in his play Breaking the Code. And what else? Oh, and he wrote the screenplay for 84 Charing Cross Road, which I think starred Anne Bancroft in the movies. But anyway, farewell to Hugh Whitemore, dead at the age of 82. And a bit more of a shock this week for musical theater people. Gotta say farewell to actor Gary Beach, who passed away at the age of 70 on July 18th. Gary Beach won a Tony for The Producers for playing Roger Debris, the very, very effeminate guy with the manservant Carmen Gia, who goes to direct Springtime for Hitler for Bialystok und Bloom. He was also Tony nominated for his marvelous role in Beauty and the Beast. He was Lumiere with the Dancing Candles. And he was nominated again for his work in a revival of La Cage aux Folles. Now, Beach has Broadway credits going back. His first show was as an understudy back in 1969 in 1776. He also was an understudy rooster in the original Annie, and his last role was in the revival of Les Mis about 10 years ago. He was a replacement cast member as Thénardier. He was in the musical Doonesbury and the long-forgotten Mooney Shapiro songbook. Okay, that's for real theater people, let me tell you. But anyway, farewell to Gary Beach, who was survived by his husband, Jeffrey Barnett. So in his honor, in his memory, gotta play something from the Producers. I don't know how much of this Facebook will allow me to play, but I'll give you a good 30 seconds of it if I can. The very funny song from the Producers' 2001 Broadway cast, Keep It Gay.
No matter what you do on the stage, keep it light, keep it bright, keep it gay.
Hi, this is Al Stewart, and I'm going to be playing on Long Island at the Bolton Center on July the 22nd, and we would love to see you there. You're listening to the Dave's Gone By radio show, and I'm talking to Saul Solomon, the Rabbi.
Oh, shalom, my friends. Shalom. This is your old pal, Rabbi Saul Solomon, and I am delighted because, you know, I have a musical spirit. I love all things creative and cultural and musical. Well, we have on the phone with us today in the Daverhood someone who has been making music since the late 1960s. You know who he is. You've heard him on the radio in the 1970s with The Year of the Cat and Time Passages, but he has so much more music than that. And if you want to hear so much more music from Al Stewart, you can go see him Sunday evening, July 22nd, at the YMCA Bolton Center on Long Island. Al Stewart in the Daverhood with us. Shalom to you, Al.
Hey, how are you doing?
Thank God, you know, I've got the usual aches and pains, but I manage. How are you doing?
I think the same thing as you, the usual aches and pains, but we try to manage.
Well, does it get harder to tour and to schlep around the country and the world, actually, when you're a bit older? You're not 20, you're not 30 anymore.
No, it's been a long time. Yeah, I guess it does, but, you know, everything gets harder no matter what profession you're in. It doesn't really make any difference, you know. And this is as good a job to have as any that I can think of.
Now, when you're performing at the Bolton Center, you're going to be backed by, are you solo with guitars or a band? What will people see?
They will see a guitar player. It's interesting. I work in a lot of different ways. I can be solo, I can work with another guitar player, I can work with a percussionist, or I can work with a band, you know. But I think that on this occasion I'm going to have one other guitar player with me.
Oh, very nice. Is it going to be a local person that you'll get from New York?
No, is a guy from Chicago. I'd been touring with a band called the Empty Pockets, and the guitar player in the Empty Pockets is a guy called Josh Solomon.
Ha!
And,
any relation to me?
I probably so.
Very distantly, perhaps, but okay, very nice. So here's a question, and you probably get this all the time. You had big radio hits in the 70s, mainly with two songs. You had, of course, The Year of the Cat and Time Passages, but you've written so much else. Do you get tired of having to play one or both of those two pretty much whenever you do what you do?
No, I don't think I do. I mean, people want to hear them, so I'm perfectly happy to play them. I mean, if you get to play about 15 songs in an evening, and that's just two of them, so I get to change, all the other ones around, and I do different songs at different shows, and so it all works out really. And like I said, I do different shows if I play with a band or if I play acoustically. That changes it also. From night to night, it's pretty much different all the time.
So what are a couple of the other songs that, you don't have to give them all away, but a couple of songs people might be able to expect to hear from you on...
No, I've no idea. I mean, I make the set list up about 10 minutes before I go on stage. I never give it any thought until the last moment.
Really?
It's totally spontaneous. It'll be whatever we feel like playing, Look at the audience and see if they look awake and interested, and you act accordingly, If it's a buzzy crowd and it's like a loud room, then you tend to play more up-tempo things, and if it's like comfortable and people are leaning back and relaxing, then you can play maybe some slower things, But I never really make my mind up what I'm going to do until the last moment. And even then, I take the list on stage and sometimes change it, so it's all spontaneous.
And Josh Solomon is able to follow along because you've basically rehearsed and he knows a whole bunch of your songs that he can immediately dip into from memory.
Well, we've just done about 60 shows together with the band, with his band, The Empty Pockets. As he's been playing all of these things, he certainly knows them by now.
Let's roll it back. Because you were, I think, born in Scotland, but then moved to London, and now you're in California. How did it take shape, your musical career and life?
I was born at a great time, really. There was a guy called Lonnie Donegan, and I can never understand why Americans don't know him, but they don't.
Well, they know the chewing gum. Does your chewing gum lose its flavor on the big post?
Which is a silly thing to know him for, because he mostly did Lead Belly songs and Woody Guthrie and things like that. But Lonnie basically invented this thing called skiffle, which was folk music played really, really fast. And in 1957, it was the dominant thing in the charts in England. Lonnie Donegan was the biggest star in England at the time. And he did something, Paul McCartney wouldn't have met John Lennon if it wasn't for Lonnie Donegan, because John Lennon was in a skiffle group trying to be Lonnie Donegan. And he did something absolutely remarkable, which was that the sale of guitars in England in 1956, I think, had been about 5,000. By the end of 1957, the sale of guitars in England was 250,000, and all the kids who bought guitars, and I was one of them, and buckled down and started playing, formed what would then, a bunch of years later, become the British Invasion, because all of these people joined bands. And if you're doing a historically minded survey of this period in pop music, you could probably make a good argument that Lonnie Donegan is the reason that all those bands existed, the Beatles included. So that's where I started. I started listening to Lonnie Donegan, as did everyone else in England.
You also discovered that you had a facility with guitar and a facility with voice and singing, too. Do you remember the first song of your own that you ever wrote?
Yeah, it was called So I Kept Walking. And it was sort of a spiritual, I think. I mean, Lonnie used to sing spirituals as well. So I kept walking all down the road. It wasn't really very good, but I do remember I wrote that.
And you were roughly how old-ish?
13, 14.
Oh, yeah, okay. So
14.
How good do you expect it to be back then? But was it a skiffle-type gospel-y number?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was, yeah.
So at what point did it go from being kind of a hobby, because every kid wanted to be Lonnie Donegan and pick up a guitar and maybe play at the high school dance, versus something more professional-ish?
I discovered that, I could do words. I mean, I just could rhyme anything. I mean, I've always been able to do that. I only have two talents. I can read a wine list and I can rhyme things, and that's it. Amazingly enough, those are the only two talents that you actually need to tour. So, I just started writing poems, and I think I probably wrote close to 100 poems, when I was 14 and 15. And it occurred to me at some point that I could set these things to music, so some of them turned into songs. And then I got really lucky again because this period the Beatles broke through, and so I joined a band when I left school, and we played Twist and Shout 3 times a night and all that kind of thing. Even more fortunately, Bob Dylan came along because I was in this band, but I wasn't very good. My voice wasn't loud enough. I couldn't play guitar well enough, and I was really, seriously, after about 2 years of schlepping around, as you say, playing in dance halls and places like that, I was thinking, this isn't happening. I'm not cut out to be a pop star. And amazingly, Bob Dylan kind of arrived on the scene, and I took one look at him, standing on stage playing an acoustic guitar and, basically being a singing dictionary, and I thought, I can do that.
Now, did you ever see him actually perform live back in the day? Did you go see him in concert?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, totally. I went to the Albert Hall.
Of course.
Got lucky again. I ran into Tom Wilson, who was his producer at the time, so talked to him. And then I hit the jackpot, really, I guess you could say, because I'd come up to London, it was early 65, and I'd learned a whole pile of Bob Dylan songs. And I got hired by a folk club in the West End of London, actually 2 eventually, and so I had a regular gig. There I am, living in the East End of London, and who should move into the room next to me but Paul Simon?
Well, I thought you were rooming together. Didn't you share an apartment, or you were next door?
No, we shared an apartment. I mean, there were other people there as well. So in quick succession, the Beatles happened. I started learning Bob Dylan songs. I got hired by folk clubs, and then Paul Simon started writing songs in the room next to me, and I was listening to him through the wall, and I thought, oh, that's how you do it. By the end of 1965, I'd given up trying to be in a band, and I'd become a folk singer. But it was like dominoes falling into place, really. Every day you'd go out and something else amazing would happen. Bert Chance was just extraordinary. Just such a huge influence on everyone in England. And I saw him right at the beginning of his career, and it kind of changed my mind about what music was really all about. Wonderful times, I think.
Well, let me ask you, I'm not going to leave the Paul Simon thing so quickly. Did you ever collaborate with him? Did he ever help you with a song? You help him?
No, I basically was the idiot who carried the guitar cases. Paul was like 22 and I was 19 and I didn't know anything. And he did point out in, no uncertain terms that I really didn't know what I was talking about. So, Paul was smart and, around him, you carried the guitar case and you shut up, let him do the talking. I remember on one occasion we had a long conversation about Bob Dylan's Desolation Row, which had just been released. It was an 11-minute song. And I'd shut myself up in a room for 24 hours and memorized it because I wanted to be the first person in England to play it. And I think I was. I went out on the day the record was released and played it in 2 different clubs. And Paul listened to me trying to learn Desolation Row, and all he said were 2 words. He said, rehashed Ferlinghetti. Now, at the time, of course, I didn't know about Lawrence Ferlinghetti and the San Francisco Poets. And I thought he was talking about Italian food. I had no idea what he was talking So I was kind of wet behind the ears, and I was 19, and I was just trying to learn Desolation Row.
Oh, my goodness. Now, Paul Simon, you make him sound like kind of, I won't say mean, but a bit of a snarky fellow at the... he had to be. That was his thing. You fight when you're young, and then you piss on everything that's come before you, because that's the only way you can rise up. But did you have any fun, nice anecdotes about him?
No. We were hanging around for about... Artie Garfunkel was there too, but he'd quit the music business, and I think he was trying to be a mathematician. But I do remember sitting in Trafalgar Square with Paul and Art, and Paul decided he wanted to hear Sounds of Silence in 3-part harmony, so he told me to sing this part. So we're singing it, and it sounded pretty good. And then a policeman comes along and points at us, and I think obviously he thinks we're a bunch of hippies, and he says, "You can't do that here. You've got to move along." And Paul And I just said to Paul, this is an English policeman. It's Trafalgar Square. It's London. Let's just move along. So I think I saved him getting hit over the head with a guitar on that occasion.
Or having the guitar inserted in a place that guitar shouldn't really go. I know. Oh, my God. Now, that's a cool story. Speaking of difficult people, though, that folk club that you were in, is that also the place where Van Morrison used to play?
Yep. Van Morrison had a residency. The club was called Les Cousins in French, but everybody in England called it Les Cousins because a lot of them couldn't speak French. And Van Morrison had, for a while, the Wednesday slot, so that meant he was there every Wednesday evening. And it was, it was really early on. Of course, it was before Astral Weeks, and no one had heard of him apart from the fact that he'd been in them. And he would play, but very few people actually bothered to go down and see him, which is quite extraordinary considering, what happened next in his career.
Well, was he pleasant? Did you get on with him?
I never talked to him. I went down a couple of times and watched him play a couple of songs, but for some reason, I don't know why, I never actually got to talk to Van Morrison. I did know Cat Stevens very well before he became Cat Stevens. He was calling himself Steve Adams back in those days.
Did you ever collaborate with him or try and write a song together?
Well, by that time I was the compere at Les Cousins, and so it was my job to put people on stage and take them off. And Steve knew, he knew two songs, and so he would turn up every week and I'd put him on stage and he'd sing his two songs and come off again. And it was very funny. I mean, one day he came in and he had, you remember 45s, the little singles, records?
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Of course, yeah.
So one day he comes in, he's got a paper bag with a single in it. And I said, what's that? And he said, well, I've made a record. And I said, well, you can't have made a record. You only do two songs.
Well, you have an A-side and a B-side. There you go.
Why, who would sign you and let you make a record? And he said, well, Decca did. Decca was a major label. And, that was, wow, you made a record on Decca, a real live record? I said, show it to me. He said, I can't. I said, why? And he said, well, they changed my name and I'm embarrassed to show it to you. It took me an hour to make him show me this single. And when he did show it to me, the song was called I Love My Dog. And, of course, because of that, they changed his name to Cat Stevens, and he was really embarrassed about it. Hi, this is Al Stewart, and I'm going to be playing on Long Island at the Bolton Center on July the 22nd, and we would love to see you there. You're listening to the Dave's Gone By radio show, and I'm talking to Saul Solomon, the Rabbi.
When you were you were the compere, as you said, at Les Cousins, were there any folk singers, people who got up there, that you thought would be really big and the next big thing, but it never happened for them?
Oh, yeah.
Like who?
Absolutely. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. I can't. There was one guy who was the class of the English folk scene. He was just better than everyone else. And in 1966, he just mysteriously disappeared. I never saw him again. So consequently, he never even made a record. I've actually forgotten his name at this point. But there were people who you felt were really good, and they were definitely going to be successful. When Fairport Convention started out, I mean, I loved Richard Thompson's guitar playing, and I loved Sandy Dennis singing, and it seemed obvious that they were going to do really, really well. And of course they did. I mean, Richard is still at it. He's still doing well.
Oh, he's genius.
And then people like Roy Harper and Ralph McTell and Still I Span and the Incredible String Band, I thought were going to be the folk Beatles. I thought they were so good. Their second and third albums were huge in England. But they got into, I don't know, some weird kind of cult. And they didn't become as commercially successful as I thought. So I was, and there was a band out of Ireland called Tien Onog, and I thought they were going to be huge, but that didn't happen either, so I did get some of it wrong. Conversely, there was a street singer, a busker. Buskers play to cinema queues in the West End of London, and this guy, he couldn't even get a gig at a folk club. I mean, he would just play on the street at the queues and pass the hat around. And his name was Don Partridge. And I think I spent one evening about 3 hours in a restaurant with Don, and he was telling me how he'd got this master plan that he was going to make a record and it was going to be a hit. are you going to make a record, and how's it going to be a hit? But he did it, unbelievably. It was called Rosie, and it went into the English top 10. And I thought, wow. I mean, I'm picking all these people to be stars, and none of them are making it. And then Don Partridge makes this record, and it goes in the top 10. And I decided at that point that I just couldn't pick them. I mean, I just had no ability to do it.
Now, speaking of folks that you played with or played on records with, you were in sessions with one of the more tragic figures of the folk scene, Jackson C. Frank. Do you remember anything about him and playing with him and being around him?
Well, Jackson was it made a wonderful album. It was actually produced by Paul Simon. When I was living there in the house and with Paul and Art, Jackson used to come around all the time, and he would play his songs, and Paul loved them. And so one day we all bundled into the studio, and that was the first record I ever played on. Paul said, "Go out and play the guitar on this song." And so I went out and I played a part, and it seemed to go well, and Paul liked it, so he kept it. So that album came out, sold 1,200 copies, and then Jackson went back to America, and that should have been the end of it, but of course it wasn't, because Jackson has turned into this like Nick Drake figure, whereby he died a long time ago, but each year that goes by, he seems to become better known. He's gone. Basically now he's sort of a legendary figure, I think.
Yeah. Actually, I won't say unfortunately, it wasn't that long ago that he died, but he lived a while. He recorded a bit more, but he just had such an awful life.
No, he had an awful life. I mean, absolutely awful. And it began early, too. I mean, he was burnt in a fire at his school, and I think that really affected him.
Now, also, we talk about you're a pretty good guitar player, absolutely. Richard Thompson is a great guitar player. There's another great guitar player who has played you on your albums, on your work, a fellow named Jimmy Page.
Yeah, well, he's on a few tracks, yeah.
Any memories?
It's a funny story, really. I mean, I met him when I was making my first single. Jimmy was on the session, and what I really remember was that he'd been in a band called Neil Christian and the Crusaders, and nobody knew that, but I knew that. And so I started talking to him about Neil Christian and the Crusaders, and he was just thrilled that I knew about this band. And I said, well, what are your plans now? Because he was just being a session musician at the time. And he said, well, I'm thinking of forming a band. And we've been getting on really well. And he sort of looked at me meaningfully and said, we need a bass player. And what I should have said is, how hard can it be to play the bass? But I didn't say that at all. What I actually said was, oh, good luck with that. And of course, the band that he formed was Led Zeppelin,
So you could have been John Paul Jones.
I said, oh, I can play the bass.
Yeah.
I might have had a completely different life,
Well, let me ask. I mean, you didn't go towards hard, heavy rock. You started in sort of an orchestral, folky way into some level of hippie-ish stuff, and then morphed back into folk and historical stuff. Do you kind of wish at some point you really pounded into more hard rock or not?
Well, you see, I'd come from rock and roll. I mean, I got into folk because of Bob Dylan, because I went up and I got this job singing in Bunge's Coffee Bar and Les Cousins, and it sort of crept up on me, and then all of a sudden I was a folk singer. But you got to remember, for the 2 years before that, I was playing rock and roll songs all night. I mean, I wasn't singing, I didn't have the voice for it, but I was playing lead guitar in a rock band. So there's part of me that remembers how to do that. It's just that I can't sing it, because if I could sing like Roger Daltrey, I would have joined The Who, you know what I mean? But I became a folk singer because I just couldn't be heard over the band,
That's totally fair. And they have the Glastonbury Festival, which continues to this day. You were at the very, very first one. Do you remember any memories of that? What that was like?
Well, it was in a field. It was 1,000 people. It was £1 to get in, which is $1.30, and it was just basically people sitting in a field listening to music. I mean, we had absolutely no idea that it would become a big thing. My main memory was that was the day that Jimi Hendrix died. So it cast a pall over the whole proceedings. We were all sitting in the field, and we got the news that Jimi Hendrix had died, and so it was, oh dear, you know what I mean?
Well,
it was a downer, to say the least.
And they invited you back, I think in 1995 for the 25th anniversary. Was it suddenly a whole different experience?
Oh, yeah. I mean, by then it was big. They also invited me back for the 40th anniversary, and by then it was monstrous. And if I continue to live, I mean, they'll probably have me back for the 50th. I think they're running out of people who were actually at the first one.
Well, 2020 will be 50 years, you know? It was 1970 originally, so if you, God willing, you live another 2 years, you can go. You know, it'll be...
that's true. Hopefully they'll remember, you know.
Well, I'm sure they'll remember.
Glastonbury, I mean, it was fun. The last time I played it, it was really fun. It went really well. And that would have been in, 2010, because it was the 40th anniversary. Yeah.
Right. So, let me ask also, I mean, you had a good career going. You had several albums out. They were in folky tradition. And then stardom. And then you're on the radio, not just locally in England or Scotland, but, you know, in America too. Did that really, really upend and change your life when Year of the Cat came out?
I don't know. It was a strange time. I was unaware of a lot of it because I was on the road. The record company had told us to come out for a 6-week tour to promote it. And the tour kept getting extended because that record, it went up the charts really slowly. It was like a few places every week, and the tour that was supposed to be 6 weeks took 7 months because that's how long it took for the record to go up and then down again. And because I was on the road and because I was we did something like 100 shows, I think, on that tour. It was just a matter of waking up every morning, getting in the van, going to the next gig, getting on stage, playing, and then falling asleep. So, I wasn't, had I been, in Los Angeles or New York or somewhere where it mattered, probably I would have been aware that I had a hit record and this was all good fun and people might have been inviting me to parties and patting me on the back or on the head or whatever they do. But I wasn't. I was in Kentucky and I was in Ohio and I was sitting in the back of a van for this entire time. So by the time I got back in April of 1977, the record had fallen out of the charts and everyone ignored me. So I missed out on what you might call fame. I mean, I never had it. I was just there on the road.
Well, but when that album and then Time Passages followed, was it up the point where you looked, perhaps, I don't know if this is true, the way record companies operate, but you can say, hey, you know what, I never really have to work again? Or did record companies do what they do, like, mercury poisoning to Graham Parker, and you were like, I've got to play all the rest of my life?
Well, I want to play all the rest of my life. I mean, I never had any thoughts of, retiring. Obviously, here I am at 72, still doing the same thing.
But you want to.
I didn't have any. Yeah. I'll tell you what it is. If you look at the 4 albums that sold the most, there would be Past, Present, and Future, Modern Times, Year of the Cat, and Time Passages. And my face doesn't appear on the front cover of any of those records in America. And as a result, even when maybe by the time of Time Passages, the thing's in the top 10, I remember walking down Sunset Strip to Tower Records, which is the epicenter of the music business, and I probably did that every day because I lived in the area, and I never once got recognized, ever. The reason being, of course, that my face was never on the front page, on the front cover of any of the albums, so nobody knew what I looked like. So I managed to almost completely avoid any sort of sense of stardom, which I think is great, because I've seen a lot of my colleagues go through this rather rough period because they think they're stars and all of a sudden they're not, and then they can't deal with it, and that's it can be quite a difficult thing to navigate. But I literally never went through that. I mean, I never felt, oh, you're a star, because no one ever knew, no one ever knew who I was, and there were even occasions when I would turn up for my own gigs and they wouldn't let me in. So I never really had that, and actually I'm very grateful because you live a more or less normal life if you can avoid it.
Now, you chose to move to and have stayed in California as opposed to staying in the UK, in London, or going back to Scotland. Was it the weather or just being near the music industry? Why?
Oh, no, I never had anything to do with the music industry. I got very tied up in the wine industry. That's why I'm in California. Pretty much all the people that I hung out with were in the wine business. So, I spent a lot of them. I spent most of the 80s actually studying wine. I didn't really play very much in the 80s. And eventually ended up I'm actually a master counselor of French wine.
Whoa. Do you have a label?
Which means I can recommend things and do that. And I came really, really close to starting a vineyard, and then I probably would have just have been in the wine business, but at the last moment, for reasons that are too complicated to go into, I didn't do that, and then I drifted back into music again. But pretty much all the socializing I did was with people who were around the wine scene.
Well, let me ask, not that we want to give burglars any ideas, but what is like the best, most expensive, fabulous wine you've got tucked somewhere in your cellar?
It doesn't really work like that. I mean, there are very expensive wines in the world, none of which I now own, but I've had all of them, obviously, in my lifetime. But what we've done, we've reached a point now in the wine business where it's really strange, because there are a lot of fakes floating around. I mean, I hate to say this to to your listeners, if you have any of them that are dead keen to go and buy a 47 Petrus or something, which would be a fabulous wine. But what happened was that when the wine trade moved into China, the Chinese were buying everything that wasn't nailed down. Some bright sparks discovered that the Chinese had absolutely no idea what these bottles looked like. They just knew, they'd read about them and they wanted them. And so, all these fakes got shipped over to China, and then a lot of them started coming back again. It's said, and this is I'm sure it's not true, but it gives you some idea. It is said that more 1982 Chateau Petrus is sold in Las Vegas every year than was actually made.
Well, did you ever see that? There's an episode of a TV show called American Greed.
Yes. It's that one I think was about. Was it about John Fox, or was it about Rudy Curry-Alwyn? But there are a bunch of people who've been exposed, doing this stuff and doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And so it's a tricky time. I mean, the people who bought wine 30 years ago, when there weren't really any, or at least many fakes around, and have these things stashed away in their cellars, probably have the real stuff. But would I go out now and spend $5,000 on an old Bordeaux? I mean, absolutely not, because I have no idea what I'd be getting. I just think things have changed. The times have changed.
Well, speaking of expense,
really expensive wines are now so expensive that the only people who buy them are like sort of, Russian oligarchs and people like that,
Now, but the sad part is, speaking of expense, you were interviewed somewhere and said it's not worth it for you to put out a new album or to make new music. It's worth it for you to tour, but because it'll cost $75,000 to put out an album, and how many people? You don't think that would be cost effective? There wouldn't be, if you sold it on your tours, there wouldn't be, like, let's say 10,000 people who'd spend $10, $20 on it, and you break even.
I've never made a record that sold less than 10,000 copies, and I don't want to start now. I mean, what happened? It takes you about a year to write it, record it, do the artwork, and everything else. What if it sells 943 copies? I mean, is it really worth going into doing that? I mean,
well, it's part of your legacy, though. It's part of your, you put it out there. God willing, thank God you can afford to do so, even if it's a loss. And there it is. These are songs that you want at least people who really want to hear it to hear.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument for doing that. I'm thinking about it. But you don't want to do a vanity project. There are a lot of those floating around. I mean, people who think, I've written great songs. In the old days, the record company acted as a sort of a monitor. And if I think, this is a great song, and I trundle down to the record company and say, listen to this, and they say, actually, we think that's awful, then you would go home again and you would rethink what you were doing. You'd probably rewrite the song or move on to something else, But
well, then you hire a producer and someone who maybe isn't a friend.
A producer would be good too. But a lot of musicians have home studios and they make albums, and there's no one to tell them, if this is good or if this is bad. And some of them are really not very good, and I don't want to be in the position where I'm not being monitored. I don't want to put out something that maybe I
Do you miss, then, the days of the big label?
Well, the days of the big label were, it was a comfortable existence. Now, the big label would take, they would pay you peanuts and they would take the lion's share of the money. But at the same time, they would look after everything. They'd give you an advance so you could go on tour and, they'd make videos for you and whatever big labels do. So it was a comfortable existence, but it's very hard for me to explain my relationship to records. Essentially, I never liked making them. What I like doing is playing live. And I made records because I had to, because you can't be in this business and not do it. But I would have been perfectly happy never putting my foot in a recording studio because it's an antiseptic kind of a feeling. I don't get anything back. I need an audience in front of me to get something back.
But when
in the case of some people that I know, Alan Parsons is a perfect example. They live to be in the studio. They love being in the studio, and just twiddling knobs and doing all this stuff is a thrill. And whenever I've set foot in a recording studio, I can't wait to get out again. Okay, I've sung this once. Can I go home now? It's I just don't like them. It's like going to the dentist for me. So that's another reason not to make another record, because at the moment I don't have to.
Well, when you are playing in places like the Bolton Theater on July 22nd and people come see you, do what so many artists do, come out after the show and take some of your older CDs and stuff and sign them and things, and people can buy those?
I do sometimes. Can't guarantee if I will or I won't. I used to do this every single night, and for about 10 years I did exactly that. And then what happened was I started playing with the band, and it takes a lot more energy to play with the band. Also, we were drawing a lot more people. Now, if you have 200, if you've got 50 people waiting after the show, that's one thing. But sometimes, when we were doing band shows, I would come out and there'd be like 200 people standing in a row. So that means you've got another hour and a half or 2 hours of signing after an hour and a half or 2 hours of playing. And that just got to be too much. I couldn't keep up with it. So, I might peek my nose around the corner and see how many people are waiting at the Bolton. And if it's a small crowd, I'll come out. But
that's fair.
Population of Long Island is waiting for me, then I probably will hide in the dressing room.
Well, either way, people should go see you at the Bolton Center on July 22nd, Sunday. And to find out more, by the way, about your life and your career and your music and where you'll be touring elsewhere, everybody please also can go to alstewart.com, ALSTEWART, alstewart.com. A few more questions for you if you have the time with us, and this has just been so delightful. But and you certainly talked about being I'm probably mispronouncing this, an oenophile. Is that
oenophile? Yeah.
But you were in rock and roll, you're in folk, you're in the music business. How did you avoid, especially the years that you came up, getting too addicted to things like alcohol or the hippie culture of drugs and other pharmaceuticals, shall we say, hallucinogens? Were you able to steer clear of all of that?
Oh yeah, I think I just came from a completely different background than many people in the music business. I was very middle class. I went to a private boarding school, and we just didn't do drugs. Fine French wine was what my friends were into. So I would drink a great bottle of Bordeaux, but I had no interest whatsoever in grubbing around and doing nasty drugs in dark, nasty places. It didn't appeal to me. I did try to smoke a joint on, I think, 2 occasions when I was much younger, and both times it made me sick, so I thought, well, that's it. This is just not for me. As you say, well, hey, right now I'm just finishing, actually, a book on punk rock. It's absolutely brilliant. It's great. It's called Please Kill Me, and it's the uncensored oral history of punk. And so many people in this book are dying all the time. And they're dying by doing exactly what you're talking about. I just read a whole thing on Johnny Thunders, and look, it would have been great to have been in the New York Dolls, but I certainly wouldn't have wanted his life, I never wanted that,
Now, as a wine person...
I'm the sort of person who wants to be sitting in a comfortable chair with a bottle of claret in front of me,
But be honest, as a wine person, what are your thoughts on Manischewitz?
art, put it that way.
Oh, vernacular art from Vina. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, but what's so different from a $10 bottle of Manischewitz to, yeah, as you say, a $5,000 bottle? But it's just the sweetness.
Yes, for a start, the sugar content in Manischewitz is enough to kill a horse. I mean, there are certain things at which you should draw the line, and that's one.
Do you feel similarly about Kedem?
About what?
Kedem? Or you've never heard of Kedem?
I have never heard of Kedem. It sounds like it should be in the beer world, but I don't know anything about it.
No, it's Kedem. It's like a slightly higher level than Manischewitz, but it's still glorified Manischewitz. I'm just kind of...
Can we move up the scale a little more?
I'm not sure. Okay, well, Lafitte Rothschild, 1960-something, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you don't know. Because 1967 was not a particularly good year in the Médoc, and that's where Lafitte is from the commune of Pauillac. And the 67 Lafitte actually wasn't terribly nice, but it would still cost you a lot of money. But no, if you were to say a 59 Lafitte, then I would be with you. That's one of the greatest ones I've ever had.
Oh, all right. Okay, fine. It's still a Jewish label wine. I'm still proud of that much.
Well, look, I mean, Lafitte is owned by the Rothschild family, which is a Jewish family. They also own a different branch of the same family, also own Mouton Rothschild. So, Lafitte is very much a Jewish wine, as is Mouton Rothschild.
I'm happy to hear that.
Hi, this is Al Stewart. You're listening to the Dave's Gone By radio show, and I'm talking to Saul Solomon, the rabbi.
How much part does any religion play in your life as a grown-up? Now, I know you're not Jewish, but are you spiritual? Do you believe in God? Do you practice anything? Where are you at?
I think I'm probably the least spiritual person that I've ever met. I really am not spiritual. I think because I grew up at the time of the hippie culture, and I was never a part of it. I mean, I didn't smoke dope. I mean, I couldn't be a part of it. I didn't hang out with musicians, and I didn't. I just was divorced from that whole thing. But I mean, on occasions you'd run into them, and it's people would say things like, "Oh man, it's so beautiful, so wonderful," and it didn't look beautiful or wonderful to me. It just looked like it was raining, and probably it was time to go home. And I don't know. I'm just not spiritual. I mean, my interest when I go to a town is not to, sort of go and look at the rainbows or the fields or the trees. I'm probably looking for a sushi bar. You know what I mean? I'm very practical, for better or for worse.
But in terms of what keeps you going and what makes you happy, like when you did your second album, I read somewhere that you were depressed. And a lot of that Love Chronicles album might feel a little down. How do you pull yourself out of that?
Well, that was a long time ago. I mean, I had a bad love affair, and actually Love Chronicles was the good bit. That was before it went wrong. But how do you pull yourself out on a daily basis? I mean, I like it. I'm a musician because that's what I do for a living. But music is one part of what I like, and it's not the greater part. I'm equally interested in wine, obviously, in history, obviously, in literature, in film. All of these things are very pleasing, and I try to balance my life so that they're all equal parts of my life. I mean, I don't really sit around and listen to music all the time, although I do like it. I'm likely to be just as likely to be reading a history book or watching a movie or reading a novel or any of these things. Music is just like one part of what I'm interested in. It happens to be the part that makes a living, but it's not greater than. I mean, if I'd been a historian, for example, then I would have done music as a hobby. But I'm a musician, so I read history as a hobby and study wine as a hobby, and all these other things. But I could easily have done any of the other things. I could see my life as having been, say, a novelist. I could have done that, or I could have grown grapes. I could have done any of these things. Just happened to be music, I think.
Well, people do draw parallels nowadays between what you were doing, or have been doing for all these years, and a very popular band, the Decemberists, because they're in the folk mode, and they do, Colin Malloy does like historical-based songs. Has he ever contacted you or given you cred or anything like that?
No, but I've listened to their records. Obviously, they're great. It's a wonderful thing. I would make me very happy if someone would take over this job from me. I mean, I've been writing historical songs for 50 years and making a decent living out of it. And I often say, look, there are history teachers all over America who are scraping by, teaching kids that aren't interested, essentially. And if they would learn 3 chords on the guitar, they could have my job when I quit. But it's just extraordinary to me that no one has really taken up the cause of writing historical songs, apart from a handful. You say the Decemberists and, to some extent, Fairport Convention. There are a few.
Gordon Lightfoot did one big one.
I think the market would stand a lot more than, a handful.
Now, when you tour and when you play, are there songs in your catalog that you wish people knew as much as they do your more quote-unquote famous works? Are there a couple of songs that you're so proud of that you wish it was on everybody's iPod or iTunes?
Well, you can't decide that. I mean, it's an intangible. People like Year of the Cat. I mean, if I was sitting down and writing up, my favorite, say top 50 songs I've ever written, that one probably would come in around number 36,
Mm-hmm.
And for people who, I would think for the people who really follow what I do, I mean, there are some people that know every single word I've ever written. They even know demos that I didn't even release. But these people are not remotely interested in Year of the Cat. I mean, the record they like is probably past, present, and future. So the deeper you get into it, the more people get involved in the songs which I prefer. Year of the Cat is pretty much, it caters to the tourist trade. I mean, the people who might know, 2 songs by me will know Year of the Cat, and I understand that. But, the people who own all 20 of my albums are really not very interested in Year of the Cat, so it just depends how deep into the thing you are.
Well, yeah, the question was also, I mean, of those people who own all those other albums, are there 1 or 2 songs that you would put in your top 10?
Well, my top 10 fluctuates. It's what I'm not bored with, I mean, pretty much I usually say my favorite song is a song called Old Admirals, because it works on a number of different levels for me. It's based on the life of a British admiral called Sir John Fisher, who was the guy prior to World War I who brought the Dreadnought into being. And he was fired halfway through World War I. And so the line is, old admirals who feel the wind and never put to sea. And it's not really, as with pretty much all of my songs, it's not what it seems to be about. It's actually just about growing old and being unwanted. So I would put that very high in what I do, and as would probably the people who are deeply into what I do. But I also recognize that Year of the Cat had a kind of unrepeatable magic to it that made a lot of people happy. So I'm happy too.
And people don't realize, it was written, you weren't depressed, but it was about a very depressed guy. It was the comedian Tony Hancock who killed himself.
I tend to do something a little odd, which is that I write multiple sets of lyrics for my songs. And then, like at the end of the day, I say, do I want it to be about this or about that? And it was about Tony Hancock, and the American record label listened to it and said, well, we've never heard of Tony Hancock. Could you rewrite it? So I rewrote it into Year of the Cat. But I do this a lot. I mean, I'll write, if there are 4 verses in a song, I'll write 12, and then just pick the ones that appeal to me.
And you do generally start with the music first, and then...
In fact, in the case of Year of the Cat, I recorded all the music first. I didn't have any words. We went in, we did all the backing tracks and all the overdubs, which meant I'd spent 95% of the money, and I hadn't written a single word. And I don't think anyone works like that. I like it. I like to wake up in the morning and put on like a backing track and just let my mind go completely blank and say, okay, what does this suggest to me? And then I can write a set of lyrics, and then next day I can wake up and write a different set of lyrics and keep, playing around with it until I've got it. The record company in England, I thought I was completely mad because I'd spent all the money, but all I had was 45 minutes of instrumental music. There was no vocal on it. And they said, what are you doing? And I said, well, this is how I do it. I make backing tracks and then I write lyrics to it. I went back a few months later and I had all the words by then, and they said, oh, okay, all right, I guess you do it that way. But it's a tightrope walk, because if you happen to get writer's block. I mean, that's it. You're done. You've spent all the money, and and you've made an instrumental album. But
that's
I've
when you
never
get
had writer's blocks, and that's just how I did it at that time.
And then you just tell, Richard Thompson or Jimmy Page, okay, just solo. Do 3 minutes of solo. It's an instrumental. We got it. Work with Ed Tide.
Well, you could do that, but I wouldn't recommend it because I'm supposed to be a lyricist. I think I am a lyricist, and that's why I've never really worried about it. I just assume that it'll come, and if it doesn't, then you get up the next day and then it'll come.
Well, in terms of your personal life, you were married for a while and divorced about a decade ago. Where are you now in terms of?
Oh, now I'm actually having a great time. I have a long-time girlfriend. We've been going out for almost 10 years.
Mazel tov.
And it seems to be. It's actually one of the most successful relationships I've had. It's really good.
So are you going to leave it? Are you going to put a ring on it, or what?
What?
There's a phrase. Are you going to put a ring on it? In other words.
I don't know. I'm old. I mean, we're somewhat settled in our ways. I think we're perfectly happy.
Wonderful.
I got married once and it didn't work, so I'm not really the marrying kind, I don't think.
But, well, why do you think it didn't? Because it was just the music business wine was taking too much of her focus, or you're just a different person now, or what?
I don't know. I mean, relationships are what they are. You enter them, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I mean, I can't figure it out. I mean, I've been in a fair number of relationships over the years, and not only that, but I mean, I look at my friends, and I'm sure you could do this too. You can play this game where you say, okay, which couples are going to stay together, and very often the ones that look like they're absolutely set for life are the ones that break up, and the ones that fight all the time, for example, stay together. I can't fathom it, so I've stopped trying to fathom it.
Oh, I've had couples break up when I was at
you're lucky. I mean, if you can have a nice relationship and get close to someone, and it all works, then bully for you. I mean, it's great, But I don't know how it works, and I don't know why it works. But instead of taking the alarm clock apart and looking for how to put all the pieces back together again, I now just say, okay, it's an alarm clock, and as long as it goes off in the morning when you want it to, then that's all I need to know about it.
Well, last question for the absolutely delightful and incredibly talented Al Stewart. Yeah, you mentioned, of course, you like to have a very eclectic life. You read and watch movies and read history, etc. But when you do choose to listen to other people's music, what have you been listening to recently? Any new artists or a mix of the new and the old? Who's on your listening device thingy?
Well, one thing, I don't know if everyone else does it, but what I like to do for new music is, I'll buy some of the English music press like Q or Mojo or something like that, and they always have a column with, they're recommending new bands, for example, and so you just go on YouTube and put in, whatever the name of the band is, and you can not only hear that, but it throws up a whole list of other people who are similar, so every now and then I'll check out all the new bands, and every now and then I'll hear one that will blow me away. I mean, I really liked Elbow for a while, for example. I love Joanna Newsom. She's a girl who plays the harp, and I've heard her described as the Emily Dickinson of her time. And she is an absolute A-plus lyric writer, probably in the same class, I would think, as, say, Leonard Cohen or Tom Waits or people of that nature. Her voice is a little difficult for some people to handle, as is the fact that she, plays the harp. So it's very unconventional, but the writing is absolutely magnificent. So there's an example of two, not exactly new people. They've been around for a while, but certainly newer. And I love to get out old records, I love to get out old Fairport Convention records like Legion Leap, because it's so brilliant. It's just amazing. The second band album is amazing. The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down is just one of those songs that I wish I'd written, but I didn't. They did. And on and on and on. I still pull out Leonard Cohen every now and then and play all the records, and I marvel at the lyric writing. I think the Stranger song by Leonard Cohen could be the best piece of lyric writing of the 20th century. And on and on and on, There's so much good stuff out there. But then there's the rock and roll side of me that, wants to play My Generation by The Who very loud, So I have pretty broad taste. I mean, look, I even different things.
Which is a wonderful way to listen and a wonderful way to be. And it has been a wonderful time shared here with Al Stewart. And remember, he will share 15 or so of his songs live Sunday evening, July 22nd at the YMCA Bolton Center. For more information and to get tickets and everything else, go to his website, alstewart.com, alstewart.com. Al Stewart, it just remains for me to say, what an incredible delight it has been sharing your memories, your stories, and sharing your music here in the Daverhood. I wish you continued health and great... As a matter of fact, what is the most recent song that you've written?
I just wrote a song about... there's a hotel, very famous hotel in Paris called the Ritz. And it became... it was a haven for artists. Ernest Hemingway basically was a fixture there before the Second World War. And then he was chased out by the Germans, obviously, and actually Goering turned it into his headquarters. And there were people like Coco Chanel hanging out there, and a lot of very famous people. Anyway, halfway through August, Hemingway discovers that the Germans are moving out. So he rounds up some French partisans, and with a gun in his hand, he goes to the Ritz and decided he's going to liberate it. But what he actually did was he liberated the wine cellar, and it said that they drank 150 bottles of champagne that night. So I'm about 3/4 of the way through writing a song called The Bar at the Hotel Ritz. So that would be my newest thing.
History and wine in the same song. How could you resist? Of course you're writing that number. Wonderful. Well, I hope the song turns out great, and I hope the rest of your long-to-be life turns out great as well. Al Stewart, a delight to have you in the Daverhood. Thank you so much, and shalom to you.
And to you too. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye now. Al Stewart with us in the Daverhood on this Saturday, July 21st, 2018. I do apologize to Facebook listeners. I think most of the interview ran. For some insane reason, our Facebook kicked off maybe just a couple of minutes ago or not even. So you might have missed a minute or two of the interview there. I'm sorry, as soon as I looked at the screen and I saw that suddenly the live feed was done for no particular reason. And the whole point of our not even being able to play a lot of music on the show is to avoid that, is to be able to play on Facebook and on YouTube without copyright nonsense kicking in and kicking us off. So I think you've certainly got most of it. If you missed some, or if you want to hear more of, or what the fuck? I just played like 30 seconds of Al Stewart's Year of the Cat, and Facebook just threatened to block me again.
I think it was my choking.
It could be that. Anyway, so... This is why instead of being a real DJ and being able to play 3 or 4 minute songs again, I'm playing 30 seconds, and even that is kicking into Facebook and making them threatening me. So this is for you, Facebook, but not for you folks watching at home. Tammy, Faye, and Laura, and Patrick, and Steve, 2 Steves, we're double Steved here, and Laura, hello Laura, who says she's listening, hello, and welcome back to all of you who were listening for the first couple of hours of the program, and who were enjoying the he mentioned Cat Stevens, enjoying the Al Stewart interview. But again, we will have the whole interview and a bit more music archived on davesgoneby.com, DAVESGONEBY, davesgoneby.com. And this is the place we'll have the whole audio. We'll also cobble together some of this video stuff, but if you want to really hear the show, which is a radio audio podcast program at its heart, despite the visuals, that's the place to go. Give me a day to get it rendered and load up on the website. And whatever you missed, if you missed the last 5 minutes of the Al Stewart interview, or you missed the first part, or you want to hear us do Greeley Crimes and Old Times and Inside Broadway early in the show, that's the place you can do. So my darling and adorable wife Joyce is there, and you can hear her for the first hour of the show. You can watch her.
Can you see my hands?
Hands up, put your hands up. Give me potato, give me taters, give me.
This looks really wrong.
No, we need to move the horn up. The horn is not in the place where it ought to be on that potato. Anyway, So hopefully Facebook won't mess with us any further today on this 660th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream, because we have more to do. We have a Saturday Segue of songs in the news that hopefully they won't fuck with us on. And what else? We'll have, more Hansel and Cow. Don't want to miss that. But let's stay cultural. Let's keep it all very poetical, since Al Stewart, is a songwriter and known for his lyrics. I'm a bit of a lyricist myself. As a matter of fact, recently I've been writing these short little poems, these limericks, and they're specifically about places in Colorado. So over the past few weeks I've done Aurora and Arvada, and the lovely thing about limericks, aside from their being so bite-sized and short, is that they tend to be really sick and filthy. That's one of the joys of them. We're not talking about Samuel Taylor Coleridge here. We're not talking about even Walt Whitman, who was a bit of a freak in his personal life. But no, we're talking limericks about Colorado places. And today's place is going to be Bennett, Colorado. So before we do the limerick, let me give you a little bit of information, a little bit of a backstory about Bennett, Colorado, which you may not have heard of. It's quite a town. Check this out. According to Wikipedia, Bennett was incorporated back in 1930 and currently has a population of 2,000. Salute. Bennett has two notable people. These are the people that Bennett, Colorado gave us. One of them was Edward Davidson. This man, a decade ago, ran an illegal spamming company which tried to dupe investors and manipulate the stock market. He escaped from a minimum security prison only to be found dead with his wife and child 4 days later. So that's one notable Bennett personage. And then here's the other big Bennett story from Bennett, Colorado. Again in 2006, an elementary school teacher in Bennett was forced to apologize for showing her second-grade kids a clip of the Gounod opera Faust featuring Dame Joan Sutherland and puppets. So she was showing a clip of a TV show that was specifically designed to get students and young people interested in opera. Okay? But she had to apologize for this. Why? Because parents in this hick town complained that the scene that she showed from Faust depicted Satan and someone being killed by a sword and a vague reference to suicide, and that this was inappropriate for 7-year-olds. One parent said, quote, "I think the clip glorifies Satan in some way," unquote. Now, this teacher apologized, but she also said, quote, "I know I'm not accepted here, that I'm not welcome here by the parents. It's a very uncomfortable position." And the town rumor and scuttlebutt about her also said that she was a lesbian, and they weren't thrilled with that. So if you can find a more crawl-under-a-rock, hick piece of shit town than Bennett, Colorado, good luck. But anyway, so we're going to honor Bennett, Colorado, with a limerick today on Dave's Gone By. We do it, first of all, by playing the intro.
You're the poetry man.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme, and likewise verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Rocky Mountain, Colorado, 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 Colorado,
Oh, dirty, dirty we get in honor of Bennett, Colorado. This is our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for this Saturday, July 21st. We begin with Bennett, Colorado. A fat politician from Bennett was fucking his Labrador when it jumped up with a shriek and bit off his cheek and made him the talk of the Senate. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is our Colorado Limerick of the week. Dirty, dirty, here in the Daverhood. Yeah, usually it's a perfectly nice town that we're talking about, and they don't deserve the horrible things I write about them. But in this case, animal sex and violence. Very appropriate for Bennett, Colorado, and proud to be doing this program, where it is 11:45 Mountain Time in the Daverhood here at the University of Northern Colorado, our 660th episode of Dave's Gone By. Reminder that all the old ones, pretty much, are archived at davesgoneby.com, so you can hear them for free. They are podcasts. You can download them, put them on your iPhone, or just stream them on your computer. They're all at davesgoneby.com. Anyway, more to come on this episode of Dave's Gone By. I think you can bring the kids back. I should have warned you to take the kids out of the room. Bring them back in. You know why? Because it's story time.
Tell me a story, tell me a story, tell me a story. Remember what you said. You promised me, you said you would. You gotta give in, so I'll be good. Tell me a story, then I'll go to bed.
Story time live on Dave's Gone By on this Saturday morning. And of course we know what our story is going to be, as it has been for the past 4 months. The book that I got from the gas station where we had our car brakes done, A Cow for Hansel by Erna Holyer. I know it says Ernie, but it's written by a woman. Her actual name was Erna. They made her male, presumably to sell more of these books back in 1967. So here's the backstory. We are into like the last quarter or even the last fifth of the book. We're here. Yeah. So, briefly as I can tell you, this is a book about Hansel, a poor German farmer boy, presumably pre-World War I. And he has a loving family, but they're very poor, and all their cows died owing to a horrible cattle disease that was taking over Oberhausen, Germany, where they live. So, family's really, really low on funds. They send Hansel off a couple of houses down to work for a farmer who's a bit better off. The farmer allows Hans to plow a field where nothing has grown for years. Hans really works it, and he mines wonderful potatoes from the field. And he gets a big harvest going, and he's allowed to take that to market, sell the potatoes, and try and get money for the family so that they can buy a cow. Because cows are pretty expensive. Well, he goes to market, but he doesn't make as much money as he had hoped, so he makes just enough money to bring home a sheep and some chickens. As he's coming home, the evil veterinarian, because the bad guy in the story is a veterinarian. He's sort of like the landlord coming from the rent. And he says, look, you still owe me the money that you didn't pay me. Even, I couldn't fix your cows. I couldn't heal them, but you still owe me money. So pay me. And they make a deal that Hans will give him the prize calf that he's able to buy at the market. He isn't able to buy a whole cow, but he can get a calf. So he makes a deal to give him that, but the mother says no. Hans worked his ass off for this cow. Hans keeps the little calf. We'll find you the money. We'll pay you by November. They don't know where the hell they're going to find the money, but they're going to. So Hans and the family are in a bit of a pickle, as we left them last time in A Cow for Hansel. We start a new chapter. Oh boy. Shepherd without sheep. Shepherd without sheep. Hunker down by your computers, ladies and gentlemen, and your firesides and your popcorn. The barons who lived in... So when we last we left Hansel, he needed a break. So he climbed up a little bit of a short tree just for a look around the town, just to eyeball and gaze at Oberhausen. So he's gazing at the town and also a ruined castle that's nearby. The barons who lived in the castle many years ago must have felt as I do as they looked out on their towns, as they looked out over their towers, Hans thought.
Over their toes.
People must have appeared to the noble folks in the castle the way the sheep looked to Hans, tiny specks, no more. The gray walls of the ruin loomed through the tree's branches, and from his high perch, Hans could see that the hillside was covered with a thick forest. 2 silvery lines gleamed in the distance. Hans finally spotted his potato field by the railroad tracks. What did Mr. Kaiser intend to plant in his field next year, he wondered. Hans decided to climb down. The sheep were grazing contentedly. They'd be all right for a while. He felt he simply had to climb that stately fir tree. The fir's lowest boughs were too high. Even the few dead branches sticking out from the trunk were out of reach. Hans hated to give up his goal after having come this far. He squatted at the tree's base and looked up wistfully. Whist, whist, whist. Golden sunbeams broke through the lacework of the leaves. There was not a sound in the woods. Listen. What was that sound? An acorn dropped out of a tree, plink, and rolled downhill, roly, 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 stopping by Hans's shoes. Leaves rustled. Hans did not move. A small furry animal stirred among the bushes. Maybe it's a rabid bat. No, a red squirrel scampered toward the lost acorn. Scamper, scamper, scamper. Grasped it with both 4 paws, and maybe even his 5 paws, and then sat up like a well-trained pet. Without taking its bright eyes off Hans, the squirrel stuck the acorn into its mouth and ran to a nearby oak. Climbing to a high bough, it peered down at Hans as if saying, "I've got my acorn back." Oh, them squirrels. This squirrel leaped from its oak bough to an overlapping fir branch. Hans gazed in amazement at the squirrel. Who says animals are dumb? He asked himself as a bright idea dawned. If the squirrel could get to the fir tree, why couldn't he? Oh, that Hansel. And remember, earlier in the book, he climbed up at this big carnival thing to reach a big, like, piñata thing of candies and goodies and onions and potatoes and brought that down. So he's a climber, that Hans is. Oh, boy. The squirrel... Who said... Okay, here. Climbing the oak was an easy matter. Hans eased himself far out on the oak's gnarled bough. Leaning forward, he grasped the overlapping fir branch, but he couldn't seem to get a solid grip. Suddenly, the oak bough snapped in two, flinging Hans through the air, hanging on desperately to the fir bough. After a moment that seemed like an eternity, he managed to lock his legs around the fir branch. Trembling, he pulled himself up. The oak bough lay on the ground a long way down. Hans shuddered. Ugh. He could have been badly injured or killed if he had sailed down with it. "Thank you, dear God," he whispered. "Thank you 1,000 times." After his first shock wore off, Hans looked around and discovered he had climbed the wrong tree. Meanwhile, he's talking about how dumb animals are. The tall, stately fir rose several stone throws away. Hans began climbing down to the fir's lowest bough. Even so, he was a long way from the ground. He let himself fall. Fortunately, he didn't get hurt. He was fed up with tree climbing for a while. Yeah. Okay. A dog barked in the pasture. Alarmed by the sudden bleating of the sheep, Hans made his way back to the pasture as rapidly as he could. If something had happened to the sheep, it would be his fault. He emerged from the underbrush. Grabbing up a stick, he ran out into the ravine. In an instant, he took in the whole scene. Uh-oh. Bad news here. A huge dog, a large dog, was thrusting his fangs into the white ewe's left hind leg and pulling the bleating, thrashing sheep to the ground. God. No, right? What a book. Who would figure that Germans would know about, sadism and stuff? "Get out of here, you dog!" Dog with an identity crisis. Yeah. Oh, meh, meh, meh.
He's scared.
He got the intestines of the sheep. Ah! Oh, boy. "Get out of here, you dog!" Hans yelled and hurled his stick at the dog. The dog cowered and let the ewe go. Get going, you cur, Hans threatened with his arm, because everybody talks like that. The dog bared his teeth and snarled. Then, as Hans stooped and picked up another stick, the dog leaped for his back. Hans fought off the growling attacker. I'm not afraid of your kind, Hans glowered back. I'll show you who's master around here. Attacking a helpless sheep. Jumping me. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, you cur. I love how my accent goes from English to German to British.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Hans charged the attacker. The dog pulled his tail between his legs and loped off towards Oberhausen. If I had a sling, I'd teach you to leave helpless sheep alone, shouted Hans as he hurled his stick after the dog's shaggy form. Hans's concern now was for his scattered flock. He searched the ravine, but the sheep were all gone. Had they run off to their old barn? Hans hurried to Hugelfing.
How dare you say that?
Yeah, I hurry to Hugelfing every time I watch Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce. But, footsore and out of breath, he knocked at the farmer's door. Have you seen our sheep? A vicious dog attacked them in the pasture, Hans panted. You have to put the verb first so I can actually do it properly. Sure haven't, replied the farmer. Perhaps they're roaming through the village. Why don't you look? There was no trace of the sheep in the village. Hans was getting desperate. He returned to the ravine. The sun had already dipped below the mountains, but he continued to search. Gray night mist was rapidly settling over the ravine. Hans called the sheep. Sheep! Sheep! That's me, actually. That's not Hans, really. A voice too strange to be his own echoed back. Hans buttoned his jacket tight. He did not like this spooky place. The shadows of night deepened. A large bird glided to the ruin. Hans retrieved his rucksack and decided to get out of this place soon. The moon would be up late tonight. Ooh! Quavered a mournful...
bird.
No. This is a mournful night creature.
Oh, yes.
Hans stumbled through the ravine. In the distance, he heard a dog howling. Ooh! Racing to the ravine's exit, he ran all the way home. What happened to... Oh, this is where Hans's mother comes in, who is generally played by our couch potato chicken, Mrs. Bakbagak. Hello. Mrs. Bakbagak, as Hans's mother, said, What happened to you, Hansel? Mama inquired of the pale-faced Hans. I heard the little death owl, Mama.
Oh, God.
There's nothing more terrifying than the little death owl. Yeah. Mama brushed damp hair strands from Hans's face under the faucet. Mama also set a bowl of soup on the table and made sure Hans ate. After supper, she said, And now, let's go do something about those ugly scratches.
Oh, God.
Mama pointed at Hans's torn hands.
David, I think that the chicken's up for a Tony.
Oh, I hope so. I think, and a Nobel. For no particular reason. Do I have to, Mama? Yes, you have to! We don't want them to get infected, Hansel. So, Mama brought iodine and bandages. I guess this was before Neosporin.
Yes.
And, let's see. Papa entered the kitchen.
Oh, no.
He looked tired. Where are our sheep, Hansel? I'm afraid they are lost, Papa. Hans explained. This is the last straw, Papa groaned, because Papa had been to Starbucks and he knows that they're discontinuing the straws there.
Wow.
What do you mean? Hans asked. Since you're a partner in this family, you might as well know. Papa dropped on his chair. Hans braced himself. Right. Hans, what did he do? He braced himself for the worst. And he was eating some Wurst at the time. Mama and I figured up our debits and credits, the money we owe and the money we can scratch up, and the ends do not meet. They just don't meet. Papa looked sick. Can't we borrow some money, Papa? Papa's worry lines deepened. We have borrowed much too much already, Hansel. The bank demands repayment of the loan on the 1st of November, and the veterinarian says he will go to court if he isn't paid by that date. Then they will take the farm away from us. Take our farm? They can't do that, Papa. This is our home. Where would we go? Hans exclaimed in dismay. We could live in the big city with Uncle Johann and Aunt Marie. Until I find some kind of job, Papa replied. But, Papa, a farmer like you could never be happy in the big city. Besides, we can't leave Grandpa's and Grandma's grave. What a happy little child he is, isn't he? Who would decorate their graves with flowers? Aww. The court wouldn't worry about that, Hansel. Papa rested his head. Excuse me. In his big calloused hands. There must be something we can do. We must think of something. Many ideas popped into Hans's mind, but no solutions. Aww. We must pray. Oh, here's Mama again. We must pray for God's help, Hansel. Mama tried to encourage them, but her eyes brimmed with tears. Aww, I know, poor everybody. The big city was a cold and crowded place. Yes. Hans had unpleasant memories of his visit to Uncle Johann's apartment. Not that he didn't like Uncle Johann and his family, he did, but the city people did not seem friendly. There were lots of people everywhere, but they always seemed to walk past one another like perfect strangers. That's the way you are in a city. You don't want to get raped. Nobody bade anybody else good day or asked about his health. Uncle Johann said people must be introduced in order to talk to one another. Hans was always glad to return to the village after a visit to the big city. Let us not give up hope, Hans comforted his father. The 1st of November is still a whole week away. God will help us. God has really done a whole lot for this family so far, right? God will help us. Next day, after school, Hans set out again to look for his lost sheep. The ravine looked so familiar in daylight that he wondered why he should have been so scared the night before. But after hours of searching in vain, Hans despaired over the family's hopeless prospect. No cow, no sheep, no farm, no shit. I can't add that last part. The family's summer-long efforts had seemed to come to nothing. Exhausted and heartsick, Hans flung himself into the grass and buried his face in his arms. Try as he might, he could not hold back his tears any longer. Oh my goodness. What a happy little story we have from A Cow for Hansel. Copyright 1967 by Erna Holyer here on Dave's Gone. I'm hoping Facebook won't start cutting me off for doing copyrighted material from Erna. I mean, she's been dead for about a decade. But maybe had family or something. Anyway, A Cow for Hansel every week. StoryTime on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream. It is 12:04 in the afternoon, Mountain Time, 2:04 Eastern Time. We do Dave's Gone By every Saturday from 9 until noonish Mountain. From the auspices of the University of Northern Colorado, Dave Lefkowitz here, my darling and adorable wife behind me there. We love doing this program. We love to hear from you. So if you want to give me any suggestions, you want to talk to me, leave me some messages. Remember, you can, of course, do that right here on Facebook. Radio Dave Lefkowitz is our Facebook page. Just message me here either when the show is going on or later in the day. It's Radio Dave Lefkowitz. The other thing is, please tell your friends, please tell your family, people who might enjoy this program, to come join us every Saturday morning on this Facebook page. And if you want to be reminded about it, remember that you can not only like and follow the page, but you can have us come first in your server or however that works. Just go into your controls on Facebook and say, see first. And that means when we go on the air live or when we post something, that goes right into your feed here on Facebook. Now you can also get in touch with me the old-fashioned way. Drop me an email, davesgoneby@aol.com. Dave, like my name, davesgoneby@aol.com. I do read my mail. I often respond to it. So drop me a line. I want to hear from you. Suggestions, thoughts, shout-outs, all of it. davesgoneby at AOL.com, davesgoneby.com, where the archives reside of every show we've ever done, and even a separate archive of all the interviews that we've conducted on the show. For example, Al Stewart, earlier in the show today. He is now a friend of the Daverhood, and that's what we call folks who've been on the program in months and years past. Friends of the Daverhood, we like to keep tabs on what they've been up to. We, because they'll come on the show when they're in a show on or off Broadway, or they've released an album, or they've written a book, and then years later, of course, they're doing other things. Well, we're proud that they're part of our family. We like to keep you up to date on what they're up to in this segment called Friends of the Daverhood. Nam do 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 do. So a little Haydn in the background as we seek out our friends of the Daverhood this week. So it's Haydn go seek. Okay. Anyway, let's see how our friends are doing and what they're up to. Gotta give a bit of a congratulations to our actor friend Hal Linden. Of course, you remember him from Barney Miller. Well, Hal Linden is starring in the independent film The Samuel Project, and they've just found a distributor. It will be coming out of a Los Angeles outfit called In-8 Releasing. So that film will be distributed to 25 major markets in September. Congratulations to Hal Linden on that. Tonight at Joey Harrison's River House in Forked River, New Jersey, probably a sister city to Bennett, Colorado. But no, in Forked River, New Jersey, it's actually an outlet of Catch a Rising Star. Gilbert Gottfried, our comedian friend, he will be playing tonight in Forked River, New Jersey. So go and get Forked. Look for catcharisingstar.com. And playing tonight for a full week or so, Barb Younger, the cabaret singer, she's being joined by John McDaniel in a show called 1968 Let the Sunshine In at Joe's Pub, 425 Lafayette Street, as part of the Public Theater. Mike Agranoff, our folk singer friend, he's doing a salon concert in Princeton, New Jersey. That is tomorrow, probably in the afternoon. For more information, go to mikeagranoff.com. And then you just have this weekend, our West Coast folks, you have today and tomorrow to see the new play Their Finest Hour, about Edward R. Murrow and Winston Churchill, who were actually friends for a while until some stuff came between them. Will Mannis, our critic friend, wrote that play. It got great reviews, and it's at Right Act Repertory in North Hollywood today and tomorrow, finishing out its run of a couple of weeks. And then this Monday, the play, this is kind of interesting. Everybody knows the Broadway musical Chicago, and they made it into a movie musical. Well, it was based on a play. They're, for one night only, reviving the play in a staged reading by the Gingold Group. That's being done at Symphony Space Uptown, and it features our friend Robert Cuccioli in Chicago. I imagine he's playing the Billy character. Marilyn May, oh my God, she's 90 years old. She's still singing. She's still doing cabaret. She's appearing with the Billy Stritch Trio at Birdland. That is happening July 24th through August 4th. And then this Wednesday, our musician pal Gary Lucas is performing The Edge of Heaven live over at City Winery on Varick Street in Manhattan. That's this Wednesday night. This Thursday night, July 26th, you can see our friend Stephanie D'Abruzzo, original cast member of Avenue Q. Well, that show is having its 15th anniversary. It was off-Broadway at the Vineyard Theater, and then they brought it to Broadway. It was this huge hit. I think it won the Tony Award. And then they kept it going. It's still playing off-Broadway now at, I think, New World Stages. And so for the 15th anniversary, they're bringing back original cast members of the show just to do a song or two. And Stephanie D'Abruzzo will be there this Thursday night with the Avenue Q crew. And then starting this Thursday and running for 3 nights, Linda Eder is at Feinstein's 54 Below. Playing now through next weekend, our recent friend Karen Finley is reading from her book Grabbing Pussy, because she's developing that into a one-person show. It's Grabbing Pussy at the Laurie Beachman Theater on West 42nd Street. And let's see, running now through early August at the Shakespeare Theater of New Jersey. We've got a lot of New Jersey stuff today, but you can see Titus Andronicus, a show they don't do that much, but if you're looking for Shakespeare at his most brutal to the point of almost absurdist comedy, Titus Andronicus is for you. And Robert Cuccioli's in that. Busy, busy guy. He's playing Marcus Andronicus. Well, I'm Davidus Lefkowitz, and we're doing Friends of the Daverhood now through next weekend. If you happen to be in Poughkeepsie, New York, you can see the production of this new musical with perhaps Broadway intentions. It's called The Waves, and it features Raul Esparza and our friend Alice Ripley. That is happening at the Vassar New York Stage Powerhouse Theater, Poughkeepsie, New York. I can't get that stuff straight. But it's up there in Poughkeepsie, New York. Go look for it. It's called The Waves. And then a definitely Broadway-bound musical called Moulin Rouge is having its Boston tryout at Emerson Colonial Theater, featuring our friend Danny Burston. That is happening now through the first week of August. And reminding you that you have only about 2 or 3 weeks left to go see on Broadway A Bronx Tale, the musical version of Chaz Palminteri's play that is written by Palminteri, Glenn Slater, and Alan Menken, 3 friends of the Daverhood on this musical, and Chaz is in the show for the rest of the run. He's playing a major part. Let's see, now through the middle of August, Tevye Served Raw, based on stories of Sholem Aleichem that didn't make it into Fiddler on the Roof. Alan Lewis Rickman has done the adaptation and is starring in those at the Playroom in Manhattan. And it wouldn't be a Saturday Friends of the Daverhood segment if we didn't mention Austin Pendleton. Because, yes, Austin Pendleton is doing something. He is directing The Saintliness of Marjorie Kemp at the Duke on 42nd Street in Midtown. Oh, no, we're just getting all this Jewish stuff now, because Austin Pendleton was in the original Fiddler on the Roof. Well, the rave reviews have greeted National Yiddish Theater's Fiddler on the Roof. They're doing it in Yiddish, directed by Joel Gray, and has music directed by our friend of the Daverhood, Zalman Mlatek. And I keep forgetting to mention this, that Fiddler on the Roof was co-written by lyricist Sheldon Harnick, who is also a friend of the Daverhood. So we've had some pretty major people on this show, if I do say so myself. And I am saying so myself. Other shows that are created by people who are friends of the Daverhood include The Bang's Visit, co-written by David Yazbek, Come From Away by Irene Sankoff and David Hine, School of Rock, we mentioned that one before, and the off-Broadway show Desperate Measures, which is playing at the York Theater and has music by David Friedman. Go see La Chance, playing one of the Donna Summers in Summer, the Donna Summer musical, at the Luntfontein Theater. Daniel Breaker is playing Aaron Burr in Hamilton, as if you could get in to see that. And then moving away from the Broadway stage, Jim Caruso's Cast Party every Monday night at Birdland. Go, if you're looking for information about New York nightlife, check out Evan Seplow's website, stagebuddy.com. If you're looking for humor, and God knows we need it, remember that Dr. Demento is still doing Dr. Demento shows at drdemento.com. If you love the theater like I do, you're going to want to watch 2 programs on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. One of them is 2 on the Aisle, featuring Charlie Gross and Leslie Hoban Blake, and the other one is High Drama by our friend Eva Heinemoon. Eva Heinemoon. Okay, the moon's in the sky. Eva Heineman. And what else? Catherine Russell is still off-Broadway in Perfect Crime. She's been there since the show opened in April of 2000. She's been there for 31 years. So mazel tov to her. More than 21,000 hours on stage in that show. Finally, read Will Mannis's reviews of California Theater in TotalTheater.com, and Bob Cudmore doing podcasts of upstate New York history at BobCudmore.com. And those, my God, are the friends of the Daverhood, my friends. Woo! Got one more bit of business to do on this episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream, because we've done so much already, right? We've had Al Stewart, we did Potato News and Greeley Crimes and Old Times, we went inside Broadway, but do we have more for you? Yes, we do, because this is our Saturday segue of songs in the news. If Facebook would allow me to do it, we'll see how far we come with that. But here's the basic idea of this segment. I play a little bit of music, almost like Name That Tune, but instead of naming the tune, your job is to name the reason we're playing that tune. So it could be connected to something that happened in the news, current events, that the title of the song makes you think of, the artist doing the song, the theme of the song. That's your job, to enjoy the little bit of music I can play, and then figure out, aha, I know why Dave is playing that song. Let's begin with this one.
Please don't you rock my boat, 'cause I don't want my boat to be rocking anyhow.
And yes, this is a reggae tune. Well, there you go. Now, Joyce, I know you can guess who that artist is.
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley from I think it's the African Herbsman collection. Why would I play that song called Don't Rock the Boat?
Because people drown in a boat.
Yes, a tourist duck boat near Branson, Missouri.
That's horrible, David.
Well, it is horrible. They drowned. 17 people drowned when they were on a tourist duck boat in stormy, choppy weather. Well, I mean, they obviously, when the boat went out, they didn't quite realize what would happen, but there they were. And the funny thing, not funny, but weirdly coincidental, 2 different duck boats were out in the same storm. One made it back okay at the same exact time.
How could that be?
The other one capsized and went over. People had to fish a couple of the dead bodies out of the water. The storms had kicked up to winds up to 75 miles an hour and made the waters choppy. And here's what they found out today. And this is almost better in a weird way.
Yeah.
But of the dead, 9 were members of the same family.
Oh my God, how could that?
I don't know.
I mean, like, for real?
So I don't know if that
makes sense. Yeah. They were all on the boat together.
Yeah, they were probably touring and they said, hey, let's go out. They're probably visiting wherever the hell it was.
Family occasion or something.
Yeah. Probably going to Dolly World or Dollywood.
Nobody's going to Dolly. Where is it?
Branson. This was just a town away from Branson, Missouri, where all the Opry things are. Opry-esque things. So, yeah, I mean, sad stuff, but, why? It makes you wonder, sometimes your number is up. Sometimes you're the family that, that floats together and sinks together. But that's why we played Don't Rock the Boat from Bob Marley, the African Herbsman album, on our Saturday Segue. So you get it, something happened in the news, and then old Dave used to play a lot more of songs. Let's see if you remember this one, or if you know the words. Enjoy. Everybody sing along. Follow the bouncing tater. Rather pretty number there. From a collection called Japanese Favorites, as if you couldn't tell. Any guesses on the name of that song? In English. She's actually singing Hush Hush now. Voices carrying. No. This is I have no idea what the lyrics are. There's no identification really with this CD or even who the artist is, but it is listed as Samurai Song. That's the name of the song, Samurai Song. And I'm purposely playing this. Nobody, you won't get this one. I just had to play it because we're going to say a farewell to Shinobu Hashimoto, a 100-year-old man born back on April 18th, 1918. He really was 100 years old. He died Thursday of pneumonia. Why are we honoring and saying farewell to Shinobu Hashimoto?
Why?
Well, because without him, a couple of the greatest movies ever made would not have been made or would not have been the same. Because this man co-wrote or wrote the screenplays for Rashomon.
Oh, I love Rashomon. It was scary.
I know, great, scary and funny. It's a weird movie. It's a great, great film. Ikiru, another Kurosawa film. One of the greats ever made, 1954's The Seven Samurai. The Hidden Fortress, which, by the way, went on to influence Star Wars. What else did he do? He did Throne of Blood, which was an adaptation of Macbeth. He directed a couple of films on his own, including one I've never heard of called I Want to Be a Shellfish. Okay. I'd be cool if it was a cuttlefish, which is kind of a Dave's Gone By in-joke. But, yeah, so unfortunately we lost Shinobu Hashimoto this past week. If you've never seen some of these movies, and oh my God, The Seven Samurai, I remember when our professor at NYU, when I was in film school, was trying to show us film art and foreign films. And he chose The Seven Samurai and said, it's a little over 3 hours long. It will not feel like 3 hours long. And boy, was he right. That movie just goes by. And of course, Seven Samurai influenced The Magnificent Seven, the Yul Brynner film, and then that was made into a remake as well. If you've never seen, take a morning or an afternoon, 3+ hours out of your day, sit down there, darken the room, get it on a big screen, and truly watch one of the greatest movies ever made. And thank you to Shinobu Hashimoto for helping create such great cinematic art. We will miss you. Okay, let's move on to another song as part of our Saturday Segue on this Saturday, July 21st, 2018, on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream. Kind of funny and completely coincidental that Al Stewart mentioned Richard Thompson, because this is one of his relatives.
We'll be the best friends forever and ever, the best friends together.
A lovely song about friendship there from the unmistakable voice of Linda Thompson. Now, Linda Thompson was Richard Thompson's wife and singing and writing partner for quite a few years. Then he went off on his own as a solo, and of course she did as well. So Linda Thompson singing that song, Best of Friends. Who, maybe you can get this one, hun, who are the best of buddies?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Even though they're from totally different countries, totally different ideologies. One of them is a crazy dictator, and the other is the head of Russia.
Trump and Putin.
Yes, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are the best of friends, because you remember earlier in this week, he went to Helsinki, he met with Putin to talk about a bunch of stuff, and then had an impromptu semi-press conference with Vladimir Putin sitting right there, and Donald Trump starting to talk about Hillary Clinton, the missing emails, and blasting his own Justice Department and Robert Mueller and the investigation into, well, both collusion, but mainly of Russian tampering and hacking into the 2016 election. And essentially believing Vladimir Putin, saying, well, we didn't do anything, over his own FBI and Justice Department. And of course, a day later, even Republicans were looking at Donald Trump and going, what the fuck is in your head? And Trump and Huckabee had to backtrack and say, no, we didn't really mean that, and if Vladimir is lying to me, oh boy, I'll be so sad, and I'm not going to bring him a box of candies next time, and oh, I will be the worst enemy that Russia has ever had. So, typical Trump, he'll say one thing here, he'll say another thing there. I think the whole problem with Trump, even though he does some really good things, but what makes him an idiot half the time is just, and nobody brings this up, but I remember when he was campaigning, they said that one thing about him is that he sleeps 4 or 5 hours a day, right? And he may take cat naps here and there, but the man is living on about 30 hours of sleep hours of sleep a week, where the rest of us need 40 or 45 or 50 hours to really be at our best, to really be compos mentis. Because you can function on 5 hours of sleep, but it messes with your head. It messes with your consciousness. You're stumbling around and you kind of know what you're doing, but you're not. I know when I'm sleep deprived and I'm trying to write something, I make more mistakes that I don't even notice. I stumble over words even more than I do here on camera doing this show. And I feel like I'm not myself. Donald Trump is relentlessly not himself, 24/7. So, he gets energy. I'm sure he gets boosts from having a chocolate bar before he goes to meet somebody. But when he's there, he'll say crazy, stupid shit. And then he has to walk it back and say some more crazy, stupid shit. So, I'm telling you, if he could find a sleep specialist, maybe get himself a MyPillow and one of those sleep number beds that they bought for Bob Dylan, we would have a completely different president. We would not only have a really strong economy, which we do have under his watch, but he wouldn't be worried about the immigrants. He says, we'll process the immigrants. He'd figure out a cure for the healthcare issue. Right? He wouldn't be so pissed off at transgender people trying to get in the military. He would be great. He'd be amazing. Just get some sleep, Donald, and stop putting us through your particular surreal yellow submarine dream of the world. Or I guess for him it'd be an orange submarine, come to think of it. But anyway, we play Best of Friends for Donald and his bosom buddy, his BFF, his bae, Vladimir Putin. All right, we got one more song to play as part of our Saturday segue on the Dave's Gone By Facebook program of the stream. We're staying political with this one to an extent.
Don't judge me so harsh, little girl, so you gotta play ball, mommy.
Well, I'm going to pop this down so we don't get killed by Facebook. God, when they don't say the phrase early in the song, I'm always worried that Facebook will say, "Oh, you're done. We're stopping you." But no, she said it. She finally said it. That was Tori Amos from which album? From the Choir Girl Hotel, with a song. If I tell you the title of the song, can you guess what the reason is that I'm playing it?
Tell me.
Oh my God, that song is 20 years old now. It's called Playboy Mommy. Forget the mommy part, but Playboy mommy part. What happened yesterday in the news?
I don't know, mommy?
Well, you know that Donald Trump used to have a lawyer, weird Jewish guy named Michael Cohen, right? And he's now Trump's ex-lawyer, who's basically spilling every possible bean he has in the Mueller and other FBI investigations. So, guess what Michael Cohen did? Michael Cohen's got one of these little tape recorder thingies.
Oh, yeah, I remember, yeah.
Little baby tape recorder.
Not good.
And now I don't know the rules on this. He's a lawyer. He would know how many parties you have to...
It varies by state.
Yeah.
Colorado's one.
But in New York, I don't know if one person is allowed to record a conversation privately and not tell the other person, or if both parties have to be informed that a conversation is being recorded. But he recorded a conversation that he had with the then candidate, Donald Trump. This was just about a month or two before the 2016 elections. So he recorded himself and Donald Trump talking about paying hush money to Karen McDougal. Now, Karen McDougal is this smoking hot former Playboy model that had a long-standing affair, well, for a few months anyway, with Donald Trump. And he was banging her back in 2006. And you start thinking back in your brain, it's like, 2006, was he married? Oh, he was married. As a matter of fact, his wife had just given birth to his kid, Barron Trump. So Trump is having this liaison with Karen McDougal, and now they want to make it go away. They don't want this popping up just before the election, because Donald Trump already has woman problems in the sense of trying to, get Republican women and Christian women, and he doesn't want to be seen as the pussy grabber. So let's keep this quiet. And they have him on tape for about 2 minutes talking with Michael Cohen about hushing up the affair, paying her off, and keeping her quiet and having a non-disclosure agreement so that it never comes out. Well, it came out. The tape is there. Even Rudy Giuliani, the president's special counsel guy, even he says, the tape exists. He can't, the New York Times uncovered it. They've got it. It's there. Even Giuliani admits, Trump talked about it with Michael Cohen. But he's not acknowledging that Trump actually made the payment, so Trump really did nothing wrong, and he didn't use campaign funds. So Trump fucked, but he isn't fucked, according to Rudy Giuliani. This is the news late breaking towards the end of the week. But of course, if they want to catch Trump in a lie, he said that he never spoke directly to Michael Cohen about hushing money or paying off anybody. The whole thing was that Cohen was there, he was the fixer, there was a monetary fund that he had to make problems go away, which is the kind of thing you do when you're in real estate and construction. It's like if there's a union problem, if you're dealing with a mafia and they have the cement business that you want, you throw some bills this way and that way, you make some threats, and you have some muscle. The lawyer is the suit that makes it go away, and there's thugs under him that are cushioning him, right? So in this case, it was supposedly that Michael Cohen had a fund, a slush hush fund, to make things go away that Trump wasn't paying attention to, didn't know about, didn't actually order him to say, oh, wow, this girl, I've been banging her, and I don't want Melania to know, or Melania knows, but I don't want it public, and I certainly don't want it a month before the election. Trump said he never talked about it. For real, no specifics. He's on tape talking about it. Now, again, it's so double-sided for me because a president's or any person's personal, physical sex life doesn't matter to me. I wouldn't be bothered by this. If Donald Trump wants to go out on the town on Melania, be it with Stormy Daniels or Karen McDougal or anybody else, if he wants to be a Bill Clinton, probably LBJ too, his business, it doesn't affect the presidency. And if he even, lied about it, which he did, to the American people, again, it's not our business, really. If he's making his wife look like a fool, that's between him and her and the kids, right? But because the Republicans put Bill Clinton through the ringer, and then put Hillary Clinton through the ringer for tolerating her husband's cheating, this is just payback, really. This is the Democrats being able to lick their chops and say, you saw what you did, you strung up Bill Clinton for the last year of his presidency, right? And you and also that contributed to Al Gore losing to that moron George W. Bush in the next election. And then you had women going against Hillary Clinton because she seemed weak and she didn't stand up to her husband, and she stayed with him even though he was banging Jennifer Flowers and he was banging, who was the sperm on the dress girl? Monica Lewinsky, right? So this is tit for tat, with literal tits. This is, us saying to the Republicans, okay, right, you got Clinton for all the wrong reasons, for stuff that had nothing to do with the way he was running the country, but it's just that he had a dick that he couldn't control. We saw that with Donald. We knew it before we elected him, but he wouldn't admit it. Now he's dead to rights. And we shouldn't care about any of this. But because the Republicans did what they did, now it's coming back on you. And just makes me kind of happy. Well, I'm happy doing this Facebookio program of the stream every Saturday from 9 until noonish or thereabouts here in the Daverhood with my friends Potatoes, with my darling and adorable wife Joyce, and with all of you, all the folks who've been tuning in. I'm sorry I missed all the folks who were listening to the first part of this program before Facebook dumped us over copyright issues. Thank you, Facebook. But Tammy Faye and Laura and Patrick and Steve and all the folks who were joining us in the first 2 hours of the show as well. Remember, if you missed all or part of this show, it'll be on my website tomorrow, davesgoneby.com, DAVESGONE.com. davesgoneby.com. This show will be archived there, hopefully with a video, but also the main thing is it's a radio show. The whole audio, and I'm going to put in a bit more Al Stewart music, because we really didn't get to, thanks to copyright stuff, got to play virtually none of the stuff that he's known for. So, yeah. Just go to davesgoneby.com. You'll find it there. You'll find all the archives there. Pictures of the show. You can also write to me at davesgoneby@aol.com. And again, tell your friends, tell your colleagues and your enemies and your pediatrician, let's say, to come and listen to this program every Saturday morning, because we'll be here, hopefully, next Saturday, usual time, usual place, live with you. And we've got some great guests coming up on the show. Coming soon, I'm not sure which week, but among the guests we have coming to the Daverhood are the theatrical director Ethan McSweeney. Now, he's just taken a big position. He's going to be directing a Shakespeare theater in Virginia, in Stanton, Virginia, where they do an indoor Shakespeare theater in a theater that's configured just the way William Shakespeare had his indoor theater back in the late 1500s, early 1600s. So, very, very cool, right? Ethan McSweeney, he's also directed on Broadway. He did the revival of The Best Man, and off-Broadway he did a play called Never the Singer. So we're going to talk to him about Shakespeare, about directing, and about the responsibility of taking over a big theater and doing Shakespeare in Virginia. That's Ethan McSweeney. He'll be coming up, and then coming up also in the weeks ahead. Do you remember that cute little redhead on TV's 30-something, going back 30 years ago, almost 40 years ago? She was Melissa the photographer. She was played by the actress Melanie Mayron. And she was also in some movies. She was in Car Wash, and she was in Harry and Tonto with Art Carney, and acted with a whole bunch of people.
Law and Order.
Was she really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. She every name an actor, they're on Law and Order. She was on Law and Order. And the main thing is, over the past couple of years, she's been directing even more than she's been acting. And so she's started directing movies, and she's directed a ton of TV shows. So Melanie Mayron will be in the Daverhood because she has directed a new movie. It's a beautifully shot film about a mother, a daughter, a grandma, and the grandma has a secret. The grandma, she was married reasonably happily for many years, but over one particular summer, she fell in love with someone else. She fell in love with a girl. And yes, the movie does have a love scene, a sex scene, there's nudity. Go see it. And what the hell is it called? It's, wow. It's called Naked Lesbian Love Story Movie. Something. I forget. But anyway, it's Melanie Mayron. She'll talk about it in the Daverhood in a week or 2 or 3 here on Dave's Gone By. Well, I thanked all you folks for listening. I've certainly got to thank Al Stewart for joining us in the Daverhood. Remember that he will be at the Bolton Center in Bayshore, Long Island. That is happening tomorrow night, July 22nd. Go see Al Stewart. And by the way, thank you to, and this is the man's real name, Oo Jung Jung of Chapman Management for helping set up that Al Stewart interview. Thank you, Oo Jung Jung, for making that happen. Thank you to Rabbi Sal Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Rabbi Sal has his own website, shalomdammit.com. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T. Shalomdammit.com. You can read and hear his rabbinical reflections there, as well as watch his hilarious TV show and his one-man show that he did years ago at the Richmond Shepherd Theater, Shalom Dammit, an evening with Rabbi Sal Solomon. So thanks to all of those folks. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching and listening and telling others about the program. Thank you to my darling and adorable, where is she? She's over there. Adorable wife, Joyce, for being part of the program and for being part of my life every day, every minute. We'll be back, Lord willing, in a week with a brand new episode, the 661st episode of Dave's Gone By. Until that time, remember that, as Al Stewart said, time passages. Wow, what a bad badly segued. But still, yeah, time passes through its passages and gone by.